Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the 5th episode of the In Off the Post podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Bevan, and I'm here with the usual suspects once again, Ross Dawson.
Hello.
And Liam Thomas.
What's up?
And on today's show, we're going to be talking about our top 5 Premier League players. The managerial merry-go-round begins to turn. Are Cardiff genuine promotion contenders? Another ridiculous transfer rumour, and hashtag Kane Watch continues. But we're starting off by talking about the award ceremony that was last night, aren't we, boys?
Yep, that's right. The FIFA Awards were last night, or what was formerly known as the Ballon d'Or ceremony. So it's a bit earlier on in the season. Usually the Ballon d'Or took place around December towards January, that time frame. But obviously they've changed the system now to take place in academic years. We'll start off with the Puskás Award, which was awarded to Olivier Giroud for his scorpion kick against Crystal Palace last season.
I mean, did he mean it, Liam?
Of course he did. Come on. A man with a beard that great obviously means a goal like that.
So Barcelona's Lieken Martins, I think that's pronounced, won Best Women's Player. Zinedine Zidane won Best Men's Coach. And obviously Cristiano Ronaldo won Best FIFA Men's Player of the Year. Was there any doubt behind that, lads?
Gosh, no. God, no.
No?
I mean,
we all predicted it a couple of weeks back that Ronaldo would win, and that there wasn't any doubt in our minds that he would win.
Yeah, I mean, he won not everything there is to win, but he won pretty much everything. He won the Euros, not this season, but kind of in the summer between last season and the last season going. So, yeah, I mean, for sure. He
won another double with Real Madrid.
Yeah, Super Cup as well.
Yeah.
He's just a quality player. He may have not done well this season, but it's not about this season, is it, anymore? So
no, but which leads us into the FIFA Pro World 11. Now, this is probably the main question mark that we had over the award ceremony, apart from maybe Mauricio Pochettino not getting a look in for Best Men's Coach.
Oh, it was shocking, that.
Yeah, so the FIFA Pro World 11 is as follows. In goal, you've got Gianluigi Buffon. Great to see him in there. Obviously beating Manuel Neuer to the place, even though Neuer has been injured as of late, I believe.
Yeah, he has, and he spent a lot of last season on the sideline as well. It was fully deserved.
Yeah, I no doubt in my mind. So then you've got Dani Alves right back, Bonucci and Sergio Ramos centre backs, and Marcelo at left back. Toni Kroos and Modric, both of Real Madrid, make it into the midfield along with Andres Iniesta. We'll get to that in a moment. And then the front three, Neymar, Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, as expected, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's kind of bog standard World 11, really, isn't it?
Yeah. A couple of names you could probably interchange, like maybe Chiellini for Bonucci, even though I personally think Bonucci has been better.
I do too.
Chiellini would have been in with a shout. Maybe Carvajal instead of Dani Alves. That could have been an argument to make, but Dani Alves did have a fantastic year for Juventus, so
Suarez as well, maybe instead of Neymar.
Yeah, but world's most expensive player. He is the it player at the moment. He is the buzz player, so I'm not surprised to see him in it. But we'll go back to the main thing that we doubted with this FIFA Pro World 11, and that's Andres Iniesta making it into the best 11 of last year.
It's crazy. We've talked about it before, that it's just a popularity contest, but it's just outrageous. I mean, we looked at the stats, and even the players who you can imagine only had half good seasons last year still did much better than Iniesta did.
I'll put that into perspective. Iniesta last year, according to WhoScored.com, only 3 goals and 2 assists in 13 appearances in La Liga.
Sorry, it was 0 assists. It was 2 yellow cards.
Oh, yes, 0 assists, was it?
Yes, it was.
Okay,
sure.
So 3 goals and 0 assists in 13 appearances in La Liga last year with an average rating of 6.93.
The fact someone can get into that team whilst only playing 13 games, I think, is ridiculous. It's an absolute joke.
I mean, what did he do last year? Like, fair enough, Messi, Suarez or Neymar getting into the starting 11, because Barcelona didn't really do much last season. But
they won the Copa del Rey, and that was it.
Yeah, but I think like Messi, Suarez, Neymar, they're easily in the top 5 best players in the world. So that's not really an argument to make, because, well, they should make it into the. But Andres Iniesta, there's so many names that I can think of that would get in ahead of him, who've had better seasons last year. Namely, Madrid's Isco.
We literally spent 5 minutes before, and we named at least 3 or 4 people who, like I say, didn't even have consistent seasons, just good half seasons, and they still deserve to be in there.
Just to put this into perspective, Isco came in obviously last season with the injury early on in the season to Gareth Bale that left him out for a few months. He's got 10 goals and 8 assists last season in 18 appearances in the Spanish league. That's a contribution, every game for him, and he's had a renaissance, really. He's looking like the player that Madrid signed from Malaga a couple of seasons ago.
I think he's a fantastic player, and he definitely deserves to be in this team over Iniesta.
But that's just players from this league, from the same league that we think could have. Obviously, a few other names that we were throwing about. We got Verratti from PSG, another main contender that we think. Well, I personally think should have pipped Iniesta the post as Thiago Alcantara from Bayern Munich.
He's a fantastic player.
Last season only got 6 goals and 5 assists in 26 games in the Bundesliga, but I think his passing percentage, success percentage, it's quite confusing, was over 90.4% or something.
Do you think maybe that Iniesta's in that team then? I mean, looking at those players who he said could maybe replace him, none of them have completed, really full seasons. So maybe that was a huge factor in the decision.
Well, speaking of that, what about Kante? I'm a big fan of him, and we'll be talking about him a little bit later. He last season won the Premier League for the second year in a row, and kind of proved that he was the reason Leicester won the league.
That's not really a coincidence either. He can command the midfield.
Absolutely.
He did it at Leicester. He's doing it now at Chelsea, even though he's injured. Obviously.
And I also think because of him, there's a lot of players who are now in the spotlight, like Ndidi and Idrissa Gueye. I think those players without Kante wouldn't be getting a look in at all.
No,
you're true. And like Claude Makelele came into the Premier League, I believe, around 2002. I wasn't watching football then, and then he came to Chelsea. And they started calling it the Claude Makelele role. And he played similar to the way Kante does, just sweeping the defence, playing in front of that back four. And it's a slightly different role to what Kante does. However, I think that's literally what he's done, is he's come into the league and made people appreciate those kinds of players more.
I was going to say that. Yeah, exactly, because usually people only look towards like either technical ability, the amount of goals or assists they score, but the success of N'Golo Kante has brought people's attention and appreciation more to the workhorses that drive midfields, like your Idrissa Gueye, like your...
He allows the forwards in front of him to thrive, essentially.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, for someone like Kante to not even... I think he did get nominated, didn't he?
Probably, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
But not to be in it, and then Isco did. Iniesta did, is just beyond me.
I think Iniesta's... Is he not at that stage of his career where he puts his feet up in Qatar? I mean, sure, Xavi's lonely somewhere if he's about.
Yeah. I mean, Iniesta's 33, and I'll even admit, a couple of times last season I did watch him and think, oh gosh, I mean, he's got some good movement for a 33-year-old. Most players don't, but he's not that good anymore. He's not the 2009 Iniesta who was running that Barcelona midfield.
I would even rate Rakitic higher than Iniesta at the moment.
Well, the way Rakitic is playing, for sure, he's brilliant.
But in terms of like who scored ratings, just to throw back to Thiago Alcantara, his average match rating in the league last year was 8.28, which is miles higher than Iniesta's 6.93. And
I just think that Thiago is... he's a bit like Kante, but he doesn't quite...
He has a bit more finesse about him.
Absolutely. He can carry the ball forward a little bit more. He doesn't necessarily get on the score sheet, doesn't necessarily get the assists, but he for sure runs the Bayern midfield. And him next to Vidal is like a match made in heaven. You just love watching those two together.
So that's our discussion about the FIFA Awards last night, which leads us into the Barclays Premier League scores reaction for the last week, which...
This was a great weekend of football.
They're giving us a lot to talk about this week, fair play. So we'll start off on a reasonably solemn note for Slaven Bilic after the Brighton boys battered Bilic's men 3-0 at home.
I like the alliteration.
Thank you. I did write that down somewhere, but I just remembered off the top of my head. So last Friday, West Ham versus Brighton, 3-0 to Brighton at the London Stadium.
No one
really
saw
call
that
it a
coming because
stadium.
Glenn Murray scored twice. If Glenn Murray can score twice against you, you got some serious issues.
We'll talk a bit later on in the episode about who potentially will be the next manager to get the sack, but there's no spoilers in saying that Slaven Bilic is certainly in the run-in.
For sure.
So then that leads us into Saturday's games. Southampton winning at home to West Brom 1-0. Newcastle also winning 1-0 to Crystal Palace at home. Roy Hodgson's men he's another name that I'd throw in there to be the next manager to get sacked. Roy Hodgson, yeah. We'll talk about it later. Swansea losing 2-1 at home to Bournemouth, which is quite mad.
It's a fascinating game, that.
It is, yeah.
Swansea lost to Leicester.
Yeah, Swansea lost to Leicester at home 2-1. Also, Paul Clement, another name that we could throw in there, which leads us into our next major discussion, or our first major discussion, I should say. Chelsea coming back from a 2-1. From being 2-1 down against Watford to beat them 4-2.
Should have been more than 2-1 as well. I mean,
it should have.
My big boy player, Richarlison, should have put that game to bed. But I mean,
my main note from this game was that if Watford scored their chances, it could have been that score sheet flipped around.
Yeah.
Because Watford squandered so many chances.
I think what's interesting with Watford is I think they sit 7th in the table, but their
high.
Their goal difference is minus. I can't remember what it is, but they've conceded 17 goals.
When they lose big. They lost, I think it was 6-0 to Man City, didn't they?
Yeah, they may have. But
so,
I mean, obviously conceded 4 again against Chelsea, so.
When you've got Mariappa in defence, then yeah, you're probably going to concede a few goals. No, but in all seriousness, I'm rating what Watford are doing this year. They invested quite well. They also spent a lot of money on Andre Gray. Richarlison, I think, was 11 million as well. And
the core is definitely driving them.
Oh yeah, he's
definitely
fantastic. Just watching the way he runs, and you're going to roll your eyes at me, but the way he runs, he just reminds me of Sol Bamba when he plays in midfield. He's all limbs everywhere, but he just cleans up the mess and drives the ball forward. It's really entertaining.
Yeah, there it is, in 6th place with, what is it, minus 2 goal difference?
Yeah, but they went into last weekend in 4th.
Yes, they did.
Big wins for Chelsea and Arsenal put them ahead of Watford. Obviously, you've got Newcastle behind them in 7th, which is a bit mad. Seeing all these, and
then Everton down where they are as well.
We'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But yeah,
great.
It was so Pedro opened the scoring for Chelsea after a controversial corner that led to the goal. The ball really came off Hazard.
It did. But it was a worldie of a goal.
It was a really good goal. Fantastic finish. But then a deflection off of Bakayuku's head from a corner led to a wonderful outside the shot from Decore, who's scored. Fun fact, I've got a stat for you.
Oh. I'm bracing myself.
Decore has scored all 4 of his shots on target in the Premier League
I
this
seen
season.
that. I did see that.
I do like that.
Do you shoot again? Like, I mean, I don't know what you do at that point.
If I was him, I wouldn't shoot for the rest of the season.
Exactly. Yeah. There was a few. I think it might have been last season. Like Etienne Capoue plays for Watford. He might be injured at the moment. He was playing as an attacking midfielder.
I'm not going to lie. I had him in my fantasy team at the beginning of last season because he scored so many goals.
He played really well, but he had a run of like 4 or 5 games in a row where he'd scored, and but he'd only scored 2 professional goals before that season. So all I was thinking was just don't play, just don't play. You're not going to better it.
So the Argentine that moved 2 seasons ago from Juventus, Pereira gave Watford a 2-1 lead then, which sort of led to the crumbling, should we say, of Watford. Lots of squandered opportunities missed on Watford's behalf as Richarlison heads wide a clear shot on goal on an open goal after a wonderful cross from Britos.
When Watford were in the league before, they had a striker. I can't remember what his name was, but he was really technically gifted, and he used to miss opportunities like that all the time. So it was like deja vu watching it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll find it.
Yeah,
but the problem with Richarlison is that he's obviously not the finished product, and we talked about him quite highly already. He's already one of the better young players in the Premier League. But the problem when he got on that end of that header was he just had he had his head kind of sideways. Obviously, you can't see it, but I'm looking at the boys, and I'm genuinely doing it. What he was doing, he was sideways to the ball and tried to like header it that way. The wrong way. He should have gotten his head behind the ball.
Very Javier Hernandez-esque.
Exactly. He tried to get his head like behind the ball when it should have gone on like an angle. It was awkward to watch, and I was really gutted that it didn't go in, to be honest.
Yeah, so then an assist from a Pedro cross led to Batshuayi heading in the equaliser. I think that was in the 84th minute, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm not
quite
too
a few
sure.
of his critics in that game.
Yeah, he did. He scored a brace. In the 87th minute, Azpilicueta gave Chelsea the lead with a header, meaning that he has been involved in more goals than any other defender in the Premier League this season.
Oh, that's a great start.
That's a good start. And then another goal from Batshuayi in the 95th minute, 5 minutes into extra time, obviously, secured the win for Chelsea. So, Watford will be kicking themselves after that game.
For sure. I like Marco Silva, and I like, to be fair, what Watford are doing at the moment.
They're in 6th place. You can't argue with that.
Well, exactly. And I really feel for him. He's also, there's no one in this world who dislikes Marco Silva. Nobody.
No.
I've spoken to
you were
some...
waiting then as if someone was going to disagree with you.
I was hoping someone would burst through again. No, he couldn't have saved Hull. Nobody could have saved Hull, and he ended up going to a good club and doing good things. But I could sense in his voice when he was in his press conference after that he was really, really disappointed. He thought he could have got 3 points out of that game.
But I was disappointed that I'm not even a fan of Watford or have watched Watford play in quite a while.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that was such a disappointing game. If it was a team that I supported, I would be so mad.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Especially because it was at Stamford Bridge and it was against the reigning Premier League champions. But
no, you're right. And I mean, they're not exactly playing like champions.
No, they're not. Which leads us into our next game. We've talked plenty on this podcast about Man City and how well we think they're going to do this year. So they won at home against Burnley 3-0. Another class display, another De Bruyne masterclass, really. So at the beginning, Bernardo Silva, leading up to the game, made only his second Premier League start, replacing Raheem Sterling.
Oh, wow.
So City have got a lot of depth in terms of wingers.
I didn't actually know that. We talked about Bernardo last week, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
And we all said that almost any Premier League team he would get into, and he still can't get into the Man City team. Came on, scored. Fair play to him. What a penalty.
Yeah, Aguero was back as well after his injury after the car crash in Amsterdam.
Yeah, I think isn't he now the highest scoring joint highest scoring non-European in the Premier League?
Oh wait, I don't know. He's the joint highest scorer in City's history at the moment with 177 goals.
Oh, over something Brooks.
I've got the name here actually.
Anyway, you can see
Eric
Brook. You can see how confident Guardiola is in him. I mean, he said he'll break it the next game, or he said the game after.
I thought he was going to break it in the same game. Well, not going to lie, but a controversial penalty actually. A supposed Bernardo Silva dive. Was it a penalty? I think so.
I originally said no, but
he definitely nicked him in the foot. I saw Silva's foot sort of get caught under the Burnley defender, but he did make a meal of it.
I think his foot's in a natural position, whereas if he'd put his foot out, sort of the Ashley Young a few seasons ago,
hanging a leg.
Hanging a leg, but yeah.
But yeah, Aguero puts that penalty away, as we said, equaling Eric Brook's record for City's all-time top goal scorer, 177 goals for.
It's gone so quickly as well, hasn't it?
It
feels like not that long ago he signed for Man City, and when they did sign him, he was one of the best young players in the world.
That goal in injury time against QPR that won City the league, that was 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago.
Don't tell me that.
I know, but so an Otamendi header gave City the 2-0
I wasn't
lead.
14 watching that, surely not.
Well, clearly you were. And then another sublime assist from Kevin De Bruyne gave Leroy Sané his goal, putting City 3-0 up.
I don't think I can properly describe that pass. With it was so.
It's just Kevin De Bruyne, isn't it?
If I just say to you that it was the most Kevin De Bruyne pass you can imagine, that's what the goal was, or the pass was.
Picks the ball up deep, runs along the winger. Just as soon as he crosses the halfway line,
but
he just
curl on it
curls it into the path of Leroy Sané.
It's crazy.
Very similar to Harry Kane's pass that gave Heung-min Son the goal on Sunday, actually.
True.
But it was better.
It was much better.
But are we seeing the Fabian Delph renaissance under Pep Guardiola?
At left back.
At left back.
Who decided that was a good idea? Well, clearly it was Pep Guardiola. I mean, Benjamin Mendy is everybody's favourite footballer at the moment purely because of Twitter.
Yeah.
And I feel really sorry for him because he had a great start to the season, but now he's out probably until Christmas, give or take. I think that's right.
I think so. I'm
Yeah,
not too sure. But
About then, anyway. And they've got Danilo on the bench. Now, he's naturally a right back, but can play on the left, has played on the left for Madrid before. And
I mean, you've got
and
Mangala as well. He's a left-footed centre-back. You could chuck him on there.
Possibly, maybe. But I don't think...
I'm just saying, in terms of players that you would think would make a good makeshift left back.
Not Fabian Delph.
Not Fabian Delph, no.
Yeah, anyone other than Fabian
But
Delph.
he scored that worldie a couple of games ago on his right foot.
Yeah.
But and now he seems to have
bringing the loyalty back in football.
He's doing a James Milner,
looking at their
say.
fixtures now, Manchester City. I mean, apart from the cup tonight, they got West Brom, they got Napoli then in the Champions League. Then unfortunately we host them, or they host us. Sorry. But you can't see anyone beating them. It's really hard.
Well, no, they beat Napoli 2-1, I think, at home in the first leg of the Champions League.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Pep Guardiola said that the Napoli team that they played was the hardest team that he'd faced as a player or manager.
He did.
And
well, Napoli are doing really good stuff
doing
at the
bits.
moment.
They're great. They're great to watch. They're like the Man City of the Premier League. They're
I think
they're so attacking.
Third last year in the Serie A, I believe.
Yeah, but their individual players, individual players have been quality. Dries Mertens is such a good player. You've got
Marek Hamšík, I think, is now equal to or their top goal scorer above Maradona.
That's mad.
Yeah.
And then even in defence, you got the likes of Koulibaly, stuff like that. Tonelli, I think his name is. But yeah, Napoli have got a great side, but still, even if Man City did have a really difficult run of fixtures, I don't think they'd really care. I don't think it would matter.
I can't see anyone beating them. That on their day, and bear in mind they're having a lot of those days at the moment, they just look to score past anyone. I think if you just stuck Real Madrid in front of them, they'd score past.
I think the first loss will probably come to like a Huddersfield, shall we say?
You think? Or like Man United?
Yeah, we'll get into that. Yeah.
I don't see Pep Guardiola. He's never done it in the past, from what I remember. Him putting out a weak team just because they're playing against a weak team. He always puts out his strongest team.
Do you know if there's such a thing as a weak team with Manchester City anymore?
That's a fair point. Like their depth is ridiculous, and their academy is getting ridiculous as well. Some of the players they're bringing in.
Yeah.
But, I think we should probably move on because we talk far too much about Man City on this show.
Let's go to the other side of Manchester, or to Huddersfield, should we say. Can I just say that Huddersfield Stadium is such a good stadium to look at?
It's lovely, isn't it?
It's so nice. Yeah.
Can we have it back in the Championship?
Yeah. Well, this is the main talking point of Saturday's games. Huddersfield beating Manchester United at home 2-1, which is United's first loss of the season under Jose Mourinho. And United had 7 clean sheets out of 8 games going into this one. Huddersfield had scored just 1 in their last 6 games.
Ooh.
Another fun stat. So this was the first Premier League start for Jesse Lingard. Don't know why.
Nobody knows why.
No.
Nobody knows why he's a footballer.
And he started in the number 10 role. Can I make that clear?
Was that?
I didn't watch the game.
Yeah.
Mata was out on the right, I believe. Martial on the left, and then Lingard up through the middle.
Oh, behind the striker.
Behind Lukaku, yeah.
I think that's where he played for England as well, I believe.
Yeah, but I just...
Maybe he's asking to play there.
I'm going to scapegoat him now. It was all Jesse Lingard's fault.
Well, it mostly is. I'm joking. So yeah, Ashley Young also starting at left back. Lord knows why. Well, let's just say that right off the bat, Huddersfield's 2 goals were made from 2 really poor defensive errors on United's behalf. The first one, shall we say, it was really poor from Mata to give away the ball that led to the first goal. Lindelof basically got turned inside out by the player in the 6-yard box.
He sent him back to Sweden,
didn't
he?
Basically,
really did.
And then in the second goal, it was a really, really poor mistake from Lindelof.
Oh, with that goal,
second goal.
What I thought when I originally watched it is, in the magazines where you have the play, where you got to play where's the ball. ball.
Yeah.
Oh,
You wouldn't stand a chance with that. If you took a pitch and Lindelof didn't know where it was, how are you going to know?
So
That's funny.
So it has been a rough start to his Man United career for the Swede, obviously Victor Lindelof. Not turning into the player that you looked like for Benfica
I
last
think
year.
a lot of your defenders have, since you lost, obviously, that iconic sort of Nemanja Vidic role. I think you have really struggled to have someone impact, straight off the bat.
Well, this will lead me into saying Eric Bailly, clearly our best defender. We're clearly missing him at the moment.
Yeah.
And Marcus Rojo, may we say, who his partnership with Phil Jones last year was really, really underrated, I think.
Yeah, I looked at some stats for this, and this year, like calendar year, Man United have got the most clean sheets out of anyone in the top 4 tiers in English football. 18. It doesn't surprise me either, because I think Mourinho shores up that defence so well.
He does.
But when you've got Lindelof playing, now he strikes me as a midfielder playing in defence.
He just can't.
He's all right on the ball, but he just gets, like you say, turned inside out far too often.
He does. But yeah, like you said, it's very. If there's one thing you won't see from a Mourinho side, it will be a poor defence, and I think that was especially prevalent last year. But on the other side of the field, very poor attacking display again. It was a lot of people were saying that Lukaku had a poor game, but again, I don't think he had the players around him that would help him, because he seemed to be the only one that was holding up play and then making like passes to players that were running off of him. Yeah, I think he did have a good display as a creator. Obviously, he had a great assist for the Rashford goal. Obviously, holding up play. Slotting it through to Rashford, who was running off of him, and that's what you can do if you have players running off of Lukaku, because he's a great hold-up player, and he has got creative ability as well. He obviously he picked up the ball, I think it was on the right-hand side, cut forward, and then took a cross, made a cross, and then Rashford, great positioning from Rashford, should we say. But that's the difference between Lukaku and Ibrahimovic last year, I think, is that when Ibrahimovic did drift wide, he didn't have the legs or the pace to
bring the ball back into
facilitate that, yeah, basically, and which often left the box empty, should we say. Lukaku, if he does, he's got heaps more pace than Ibrahimovic, and thankfully Rashford was there in the box, because that was a big issue for United last season, was leaving the box empty when Ibrahimovic did come out to collect the ball. But in terms of possession stats, this is a perfect example of, I hear them saying it on Match of the Day, but this is the perfect example of possession does not win football, because United have had 78% possession in the whole game. Huddersfield
78.
That's Huddersfield
crazy.
just had 22%. But
I think like a stat that's quite prevalent was that in his entire Premier League career, Jose Mourinho's gone 2-0 down in only 19 matches, and in those matches he has not won a single one, drawn once, and lost 18.
Yeah,
he's not gonna do that. He's not gonna chase a game, like that.
yeah.
But take nothing away from Huddersfield. They're the third newly promoted team to beat a Jose Mourinho side.
Yeah.
So I think they came out really well, and I said it before. David Wagner, I think tactically is a fantastic manager.
Do you think you suffered though? Because obviously that an inspiring result at Anfield. I mean, you have Guardiola, who often talks about a winning mentality. Did you sort of sacrifice that against Liverpool?
We sort of, but I think this game just proves how United have missed opportunities in recent games. Like I said I think it was last week's episode, we talked about the Liverpool United game, wasn't it? I talked about how it wasn't necessarily an overly defensive display. It was more poor, not capitalising on chances in attack, and that was prevalent again today, because there's no way that Jose Mourinho would go into a game against Huddersfield with the mindset of we're going to set ourselves up defensively. I think and as he and Herrera pointed out in the post-match interviews, it was definitely a lack of passion from the United attack in that game.
Yeah, I think that they suffer from that. I mean, to go to Anfield and sort of play with, I mean, many people said a defensive mindset. I think it can then be hard. I know you beat Benfica in the week, but to go
That
to
was
your next Premier League game
we
with
struggled against Benfica. It has been a really poor week
it's
for
going
us.
to dent your attacking confidence.
Because we had the Liverpool game last week going into the 1-0 win against Benfica, which was quite lucky. Because obviously the young Benfican goalkeeper, it was a mistake on his behalf that led to Rashford's goal.
I felt for him so bad.
Yeah.
He was crying after the game. Lukaku came over to him, was consoling him. Oh.
But then going into the defeat against Huddersfield, it has been a really poor week for Manchester United. But
you've got to slip up at some point. People are questioning when Manchester City will, and you sort of are at the moment.
My initial reaction because I wasn't able to watch the result, thankfully, but when I heard that Huddersfield were 2-0 up, my initial reaction was, oh, okay, this is what's happened for the last couple of seasons, where our season falls off a cliff and we start spiralling and we'll end up in 5th place. But then I thought, the more I thought about it, I think people are really overreacting.
No,
because whenever United lose, they've apparently lost it. But it's United's first loss of the season. It was 2 defensive mistakes that led to the 2 goals for Huddersfield, and it has been quite a packed schedule, and I think it was poor from Mourinho. Well, it wasn't poor because obviously Lindelof needs minutes, but I think that secures the fact that Lindelof will only be used for cup ties and maybe easy Champions League matches in the group stages, because he is not a starting centre-back at the moment. Even Chris Smalling, who started next to him, he had a better game. And Chris Smalling is one of our poorest centre-backs at the moment. I think we're sorely missing Eric Bailly, we're sorely missing Marcus Rojo, and even as a third-choice centre-back, Phil Jones is decent.
Where is Bailly?
He's injured.
Again,
last
season.
Is he out for a long time?
I'm not too sure. It's not a long-term injury. It's a couple of months like Pogba's, but
I like the point.
That's another point as well.
Yeah.
We're missing Pogba. you got to think. I know you lot. You do not rate Pogba as highly as I do, but that's because
It's because nobody rates Pogba higher than you do now.
No, it's hard to explain because I've watched Pogba in every game that he's played for United so far. In his going into his second season, I've seen the difference between playing with Pogba and playing without. You think of the 4 games that he played in the Premier League this season, he got 2 goals and 2 assists in those games. And we've played 5 games after that, and it's no coincidence that United have started playing poorer due to Pogba's absence. That's not a coincidence.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I watched Pogba at the start of the season. I did think he looked more like his Juventus self rather than
That's with Matic next to him.
Yeah, Matic next to him gives him a lot more freedom. And I think Matic is such a great coup. For 40 million, I don't care that he's 29.
I know Matic was a great deal, but I know Matic's passing is quality, but he has the job of holding down the midfield. If Pogba's next to him, he's the person who can carry the ball forward and make the passes that no other player can, because Herrera's not going to make that. He's not going to play that role. Herrera's more of like a Kante sort of role, where he's a workhorse. He runs around, wins the ball, makes the short passes that lead to a United counter-attack. But if you lead into a really quick counter-attack, if you regain possession, Pogba is the player that will make that really long, accurate ball to an attacker that will lead to the goal, if that makes sense. I think we're sorely missing Pogba, and I can't wait for him to come back.
Yeah, I like the point that Liam made, though, earlier, about sacrificing a winning mentality against Liverpool, and whether that's had an effect on you. And I think there might be something to that, in the sense that, he set them up to play the way they did against Liverpool, and it worked, so maybe he's trying to integrate a little bit more of that into his team against Benfica.
You want your strikers scoring in every game.
Exactly. Exactly. And then maybe it has knocked Lukaku's confidence a little bit. To be told that we're not...
He hasn't scored in a couple of games, but he did get a great assist.
Yeah.
And I think Lukaku offers so much more than just goals.
Yeah, no, he is a creative player, but he's not the complete...
No.
Player by any means. But maybe it has knocked Lukaku a little bit, saying... Right, today we're not going to play to you. And I imagine for his entire career, that's how he's been told they're going to play.
I think it'll be great for Lukaku when Ibrahimovic does eventually come back. Because I think, rumours suggest, due to Ibrahimovic's activity on social media, he's due back soon. He was scheduled to come back in January, because I think he would have been out for around 8 months at that point, I believe.
I think he could be back by Christmas.
Oh yeah, probably before Christmas.
Yeah.
But I think that'll be great for Lukaku. I think they're both very similar players in terms of playing style. Like a young Ibrahimovic is very reminiscent of Lukaku. Lukaku doesn't obviously have the skills or technical ability or finesse, should we say, as a young Ibrahimovic did. But it's very much similar to the situation with Rashford and Ibrahimovic last year, where once Ibrahimovic was injured, Rashford came in at striker, started playing decent, but he's not the finished product either.
No, by no means.
No. So that's enough of my weekly rant about Manchester United. We'll go into Sunday's game, starting off with Spurs, another win at Wembley against Liverpool, a massive 4-1 scoreline.
Liverpool's as well, wasn't it?
It was a record attendance, yeah, for a Premier League match at Wembley. I'm not sure of the exact figures, but it was over 80,000, yeah. And Wembley didn't even look anywhere near full, which is a bit mad.
Does it ever look full?
But yeah, another example of Liverpool's defensive or lack of defensive abilities being exploited. Harry Kane opening the scoring early on in the 4th minute. And then
I'm smiling. You can't see that, but I'm smiling.
Yeah, this is Kane Watch, by the way.
It's hashtag Kane Watch. It's back again.
Kane Watch.
This is Kane Watch.
Oh, okay.
And a brilliant assist from Harry Kane. Like I said earlier, very reminiscent of the Kevin De Bruyne assist that led to Son's goal. A chance from Son that was squandered. It was a great ball from Christian Eriksen that led to that. I just wanted to mention that out there. Eriksen, obviously one of the most underrated players in the Premier League. But I think that's going to be next week's topic.
Next week,
quite possibly.
Yeah. Top 5. Next week's top 5 will probably be top 5 underrated players.
Yeah.
We did players outside the top 6. That sort of ties into it, but we're talking more of players in big teams who are underappreciated. But we'll get into that next week. Son is definitely
one of them.
Son is definitely one of them as well. Mo Salah made it 2-1 after a great assist from Henderson, but it was a potential foul on Harry Kane. A lot of Spurs players and Spurs fans were arguing that Kane was fouled, but it was nevertheless a great ball from Henderson that led to the Salah goal. And then a very poor header from, defensive error from Joel Matip led to Ali slotting it in from near the edge of the box to make it 3-1. And then another goal from Mr. Kane himself made it 4-1. Kane then obviously went off injured in the 88th minute, I believe.
But apparently that's not a big issue.
No, so he will probably make it to the United game.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, obviously this Saturday, 12:30 kickoff, Brighton early boys.
Can't wait.
Zidane saying he's now an all-round player.
Yeah, Michael Owen tipping him as having no weaknesses. Well, he now has 13 goals this season for Spurs.
Bear in mind, he didn't score in August. I can't stress that enough. He basically, if you say that essentially was injured for August, because we'll just gloss over the fact that he didn't score. I
think he does it deliberately, just so he can say, look,
he's got 13 goals in 2 months. It's crazy. He's now the top goal scorer in 2017, ahead of Cristiano Ronaldo. I think 45 and 38, 39. Crazy stats. I think Alan Shearer's worried because if he or hoping he goes to Real Madrid, because if he stays in England his entire career, then he's 100% knocking that goal record.
Oh yeah, 100%.
There's just no doubt.
100%. But yeah, Harry Kane now the top goal scorer in the league this season in the Premier League with 8. Also, interestingly enough, Kevin De Bruyne now tops the assists chart, which is good news.
Not too long ago, he wasn't near the top.
No. He had like 3 assists like a couple of weeks ago. I remember on a couple of episodes ago. And yeah,
proving his worth.
So a very convincing win for Spurs. A good note to have going into next week's, this Saturday, shall we say, is fixture away to Manchester United.
And I look forward to Ross's weekly Man United rant being tied in with Kane Watch. That's going to be that's going to beCeption. I can't wait.
The world will explode for that. But
it's what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object.
Well, stay tuned for that. We'll see how Jose Mourinho starts out his
8 defenders.
8 defenders, yeah. Oh, God, that's going to be so fun.
That's how you stop Harry Kane.
Victor Lindelof, man-marking Harry Kane. Boy.
He just comes out without any legs. He's just like, what happened? His ankles have been broken. He's just flopping around. Oh, it's crazy.
Oh, God bless. which leads us into the next Sunday fixture, the big talking point of the weekend.
Go on, Liam, take the wheel.
Liam, we sacked Koeman. We sacked him. we got him, boys.
And you're going to hire him next year.
We are. Please don't. We got him.
So Arsenal beating Everton 5-2 at Goodison Park, which obviously led to Ronald Koeman's sacking.
Yeah.
Liam, do you want to talk to us about the match?
Well, before the match, they actually said, interestingly, if we put a few past them, it could be the end of his career at Everton, and we did that. I think we got the memo. But first game where we got to trial out our final product of, Sanchez, Ozil and Lacazette.
Starting together for the first time. No coincidence, the fact that the game ended up 5-2.
Yeah, just brilliant. I mean, first 10 minutes.
Who knew that your three record signings would do well together? Who knew?
I know.
Genius.
Danny Welbeck will be playing next game, guaranteed.
On the left wing.
Yeah. But first 10 minutes, absolutely all over them. And then, sloppy Xhaka. It's like a euphemism. Just poor again on the ball. Gets approached by Idrissa Gueye, and let me tell you, he didn't buy him a drink. Completely dispossessed him, and won the goal by Rooney. But after that, we regained control. And as an Arsenal fan, we're not going to win the league this year. I'm saying that to try and jinx it. We got to enjoy these results while we can, because I can't see much else coming from the season. So you just got to see it for what it is, really.
And we talked about him last week, but Idrissa Gueye, until he got sent off,
yeah,
he was by far Everton's
good.
best player. He was playing very, very well.
Absolute pain for us.
So I think that passing, that was at 2-1, bear in mind.
As soon as he got sent off, I thought, here we go.
Yeah, that was the end of Everton's game for sure. 30
attempts by the end of the game. I think we had a record for this year anyway. 17 attempts, I think, in the first half from an away team.
Dear God.
When you sign all those players, we'll look at it when we look at Koeman, but you don't want your goalkeeper to be the best player. You don't. And he in that game again, it could have been more. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was a good result. Good watch as well.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Sanchez, Ozil and Lacazette all either contributed and scored a goal, if not both. Lacazette scored one, Sanchez scored and assisted, Ozil scored and assisted.
So where's Lacazette on the assists? He doesn't like passing, does he? He's overrated. No, I'm joking.
I'll have you know, mate, he's on 3 goals this season.
Oh, here we go again.
I'm joking.
50 million? 50 million for that?
Dear.
But it was... Sanchez's goal was a fantastic goal. It was
great.
It was
beautiful.
It was great play from Ramsey. The little sort of touch that led to
flicks it onto him, and you just don't know when he's going to shoot, but he can score from anywhere.
He ran away from the goal.
Yeah.
And then he shot it across the keeper into the bottom corner.
Yeah, into the side net.
Yeah, side net even. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I feel sorry for Jordan Pickford though. He doesn't deserve this. He left Sunderland to not be in the relegation zone.
And where's he ended up?
And now where's he gone? He's that poor kid. That poor kid deserves so much better. Like Jack Butland deserves so much better than Stoke. Oh, sorry, was that controversial?
No, I'm just saying he's had a poor campaign so far this season. Well, Stoke have.
He personally hasn't.
I think they're both up there now with most goals conceded.
Oh, they for sure are. Joe Hart as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they've got all three.
That'd be
Pickford,
incredible.
Hart, and there's 3 teams. Butland. I can't remember the exact teams. It will come up in a later topic. But they've got the exact same wins, the exact same draws, the exact same points, and it's like 3 consecutive places. And I think. I'll get on to it, but yeah. So, is there anything you'd like to add about the match?
Not really.
Wenger out?
Well, still Wenger out. 4 years, 5 years going. But no, it was a good result.
Yeah. Okay. Which leads us into our next topic of managerial sackings. Ronald Koeman is finally gone from Everton after a really, really poor start to their campaign.
It's a couple of weeks overdue, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But as soon as we finished recording and started uploading last week's podcast, Craig Shakespeare was also sacked by him.
What's that about? I know Leicester haven't been doing too well this season, but surely they're kind of on par where they should be.
Leicester are so good at winning the game after their manager
That's true.
Whether that's an issue in the team, with the manager.
Yeah.
The
the whole squad's a bunch of snakes.
Yeah.
Quoted.
Quoted.
We'll get him, and then we'll win the next one. It's easy.
Yeah, I mean, they did win 2-1 against Swansea away, so maybe you're right. Maybe Leicester will have a good season now. Maybe they think, oh, if we sack him earlier on, we might get higher up in the table.
Yeah.
You know.
But did you see Swansea's defending for? I believe
didn't
it was
catch the
Okazaki's
game.
goal. Oh my God, that defensive line was like a
Okazaki.
horseshoe. It was brilliant. Like they had, I don't know who's playing centre back. Probably Federico Fernandez and somebody else, Alfie Mawson.
Yeah. Well, Alfie Mawson got a goal.
He did. I think he's now the top scoring defender in the league this year.
No, Azpilicueta.
Oh, I lied.
I think so. I think I said it earlier.
Might be for centre back then. Either way, he's scoring a lot of goals for centre back.
Azpilicueta's involved in more goals than any other defender. So.
But Alfie Mawson and Federico Fernandez were kind of on the edge of the box, and then Carl Norton and whoever they had at left back were just a million miles behind them, and then Okazaki was just right in the middle. He was just right in the middle of them, and it was an easy goal.
I do like Okazaki though.
He's a poacher. He's
a really good player.
Yeah. He doesn't look like he's got like the physique of a footballer, but he scores a lot of headers for someone who
he does.
Who's that short.
He's a good partner for Vardy as well, I think.
Yeah,
he works hard as well.
Does,
They spent a lot of money trying to get a partner for Vardy, haven't they?
Yeah,
32 million on Slimani. And I think that Okazaki's better.
But would you start Okazaki ahead of Iheanacho, even though I know how highly you rate
I do highly rate Iheanacho. I would say that he is probably a better player, Iheanacho, to play with Okazaki than with Vardy.
Yeah.
Because Vardy and Iheanacho, although Iheanacho is more kind of
one-dimensional,
he is very one-dimensional, and he doesn't really play off the shoulder as much, does he? But he does like to get in the box. I mean, we've always quoted this stat, but in his first 15 shots on goal or on target in the Premier League, he had 12 goals.
Yeah.
So he knows where the net is. I think he's really hard done by. Ended up at Leicester.
I think Okazaki is a really great partner for Vardy because of Leicester's style of play as well. Obviously, Leicester have got the sort of get the ball back, counter-attack style of football down to a T.
Sure.
Well, that's what won them the league. Mm-hmm. And I think Okazaki is a great person that can be up front with Jamie Vardy to support that style of play.
I've been really impressed with Ndidi as well this year.
Yeah, he's won most tackles again now, I think.
I think you said that earlier. I think that it would be a silly comparison to say that he's playing as well as Kante, but he's certainly doing the Kante job that he was brought in to do.
No, but him and Gay, I mean, we had the chance to sign Kante, we didn't. There's no reason why we can't go in for one of those two if they continue to play the way they are till the end of the season.
True.
But anyway, back onto Craig Shakespeare's sacking. Shakespeare obviously went 6 games in the league without a win in the lead up to his departure with Leicester. Was his sacking warranted?
I don't think anyone was calling for him to be sacked. Normally
It did take me by surprise.
There's normally a lot of murmurings before. You can see it on Twitter, or they'll talk about it on Match of the Day or whatever. I don't think there was a single Leicester fan that I saw, at least. Then probably was a small contingent.
It's interesting to see the statement they released. I haven't had a look.
I haven't read it, actually.
Do you think this is partly due to unrealistic expectations on Leicester fans or the board's behalf?
Oh, I would say that's very highly up the priority list.
I think it sort of links to Koeman in the fact that they did invest in the team again and sort of, well, to a sense.
Not on the scale.
Not on the same scale, and didn't really get the results to match that. So
I would just say that it was really, really hard done by. I do think Shakespeare was hard done by.
You got Michael Appleton coming in now. He's hit the ground running.
I think he was Oxford manager, I believe, and then left them to be number 2.
But in my eyes, he is the most physically intimidating manager in the Premier League at the moment. Have you seen the guy?
He is scary. He's very scary. We'll get a photo up now.
I'll get a picture up now.
But we'll talk a little bit about the potential replacement. I wouldn't think that he's too far off Chris Koeman. Coming in.
I thought you were going to say, he's on the back of the Metro again.
That's
Ryan Giggs, he just looms everywhere.
Oh no, he just likes throwing his hat in the ring.
You see the picture on the Metro, he's just like he's in the back of a crowd waiting just to be picked.
That's what Michael Appleton looks like.
Goodness.
He's just a scary guy.
Personal trainer maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we used the managerial merry-go-round what's it called,
The whole
metaphor
cliche.
earlier, but Ryan Giggs is just permanently sat on it,
Yeah.
and he's just going round and round and round. Bolton, nah, round, just keep
You
going.
have to pick a football team in school, and there's that one kid left, but they're not even picking him either, and that's Ryan Giggs.
That's Ryan Giggs was the manager.
Ryan Giggs has been sat on the managerial merry-go-round for about 3 or 4 years.
And he's throwing his hat into every single job, and they're just like, nah.
I saw an article of a guy that submitted 5,000 CVs and didn't hear back from any job interview. That's Ryan Giggs at the moment. But anyway, we'll talk about Ronald Koeman's sacking, because I think that was definitely a sacking that was warranted. Everton's currently sits 18th after 9 games. 2 wins, 2 draws and 5 losses with 8 points. So Everton were one of the sides that had the same record as 2 other sides, which is the joint 3rd worst start to a Premier League campaign after 9 games with 8 points.
I'm surprised they had as many points as they did.
Yeah.
But the 2 worst seasons after 9 games were, I think, 3 points and 4.
Oh,
and
wow.
And they were a couple of decades ago, but then there was 3 seasons where they had 8 points after 9 games, and this is one of them, which is quite mad considering how much they've spent. But we'll get into transfer business. Well, right now if you want to.
Just palm that off. Oh wait, no, Eddie's back. No, I did touch it slightly in the last segment, but I think Chris Coleman is definitely going to go to either of those teams, one of the two.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think Swansea will end up getting him, because I think they're going to just they're going to clutch onto Paul Clement until eventually they're 12th
Clement's
or
got
whatever.
Connections.
He
That's
does.
what got them the Sanchez deal.
That's the problem. Like he yeah, I don't even really know what I'm saying, to be honest. He knows his stuff about football. He's not a good manager. But anyway, I'm digressing.
But
That's unlike me.
in terms of underperforming, Everton are hands down the team that's underperformed the most in the league this season, would you say?
It's not just inconsistency, it's the manner of losses. I mean,
They-
if you
they
want a
have-
reason
they
to
are
sack
winning
a
games really
manager,
poorly.
he's got a whole handful of cards.
I just like, before we list off all the negatives behind Ronald Koeman's disappointing start, there are arguments against his sacking, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, I saw a guy tweet that he guided Everton to Europe in his first season at the club, which I was like, okay, fair enough. Koeman did have a good season at Everton last year, and then the club also sell their star player in Lukaku, and now have a much tougher schedule of games with the Europa League. You've got the League Cup, the FA Cup, and of course the league. So they have got a similar schedule to the top 3 teams who are obviously in the Champions League and have European football and stuff like that. But when you spend £140 million on players and end up with 3 or potentially 4 number 10s in your team, that's really poor
the
business.
composition of the team is so poor. I mean, just even against the Arsenal match, I was struggling to see who was playing sort of what role, definitely. But
after their business in the transfer window, I definitely tipped Everton to possibly break into the top 6 this season, but that's definitely not the case.
It annoys me that Rooney, Sigurdsson, Davis and Barkley are all kind of in the mix there. It's like,
well, no, I wasn't thinking Davis, I was thinking Klaassen.
So I forgot about Klaassen.
You've got potentially 5 number 10s in that Everton side, which is way too many. Just put it
there's
that way.
no pace. I talked about it last week, that the way that he plays, he likes counter-attacking football, and I think Idris Gueye and Schneiderlin, are really good. Really good and for him, and would work in his system fantastically. The problem is they have no, like-for-like replacement for Lukaku. They have no pace. They're not playing Morales because he's had a massive bust-up with Ronald Koeman. They're just slow. I don't even think Aaron Lennon's that quick anymore, and he's not playing.
But
Everton,
Everton did start the transfer window. Their business was really good. Their first signing was Pickford. Then they obviously got Michael Keane and David Klaassen. So
it started well.
But then
and even Sandro Ramirez, I think that's his name,
who
was the highest scoring player in Spain last year under the age of 23 for €7 million.
I thought that was a really good deal, but he's not starting a striker, I don't think.
He wasn't even in the matchday squad against Arsenal.
No, I'm fairly sure Rooney started a striker or something.
He didn't start a striker, but he ended up moving there.
And Wayne Rooney.
You just need some fast players to play the way he wants to play, and I think Sandro is quite quick. I don't know why he's not playing.
even though Sandro was sort of tipped to be that Lukaku replacement, they really should have gotten a player to replace Lukaku. They were heavily linked with Olivier Giroud in the summer, and I think Giroud would have been a fantastic signing for Everton.
And Diego Costa as well.
Blimey.
I mean, I think he's a great player. I don't think that he would have necessarily saved them. I think he would have thrown his toys at the pram and demanded to go to Atleti in January.
If this podcast existed during the summer, that would have been the really bad transfer rumour of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Diego Costa to Everton. But yeah, not getting the right replacement for Lukaku has obviously cost them dearly.
Has Sandro played yet, though?
Yes, he's played a few minutes.
Okay. I mean, I think he's conceded 18 goals, Pickford, and yet he's probably one of their star players.
Yeah.
Or he's played one of the best out of the signings.
But just a fun stat for you. Ronald Koeman's time at Everton has produced his second lowest win percentage in his managerial career with 40.43%. His lowest being at Valencia with 22%.
He was a dead man walking before he took the job there, though. That was a ridiculously hard job.
Just to put this into perspective, David Moyes, who had a very long run in at Everton, his win percentage was 44.68, and Koeman's predecessor, shall we say, Roberto Martinez's was 51.6%.
Oh, Bobby Martinez, what a man!
He was a really good manager.
I don't think he was.
But Lord knows what he could do with Everton's side now.
Get them relegated.
You think?
I don't think he is a good manager personally. I've seen his Belgium.
He did a really good job at Wigan.
I mean, yeah, but
season,
but it's
with Wigan every year.
He won the FA Cup with them, if I remember, but then also got relegated the same season. First manager ever to do it. Great guy.
CV builder.
I think that he is actually he's a good manager for those struggling teams, but then can't take them to the next level. He moved to Everton after he left Wigan and told them immediately he was going to get them Champions League football the next season. I think they finished 8th and 9th under him. So
I mean, it's normally negative when you sack a manager, but do you think this shows ambition from Everton? Do you think they think they should be with the top dogs now, with the money they're spending?
They should be, and as we were watching a match the day before this, they said that Everton traditionally are not a sacking club. They like long-term managers, and now long-term's only a couple of years.
Is there any long-term managers though in this day and age in the Premier League?
No,
apart from Arsene Wenger, obviously, but I can't see
catching it with the times, maybe.
Well, yeah, I was going to say. I mean, Arsene Wenger is he's always on the chopping board at the moment. 21 years means nothing to Arsenal fans.
The board don't want to think about sacking him, really.
No, but who do you think should replace him? Because I think if it's not Koeman, it'll be Ancelotti. I honestly do think that.
I don't think Ancelotti.
Even if, because I do think Ancelotti said that he isn't going to take a job this year. He's going to wait until next season. So he can have a full pre-season with his team. I think they might appoint someone until the end of the season and then pick someone up.
Potentially, but I would agree with you in saying Chris Koeman would be a good shout for it, because with the way Everton are now, if a quality manager comes in, it can only get better.
Yeah,
and I think Chris Koeman, if he does move into league football, he would want to start off at that sort of level where he would want to build the team up and sort of have a success story, because you don't want to go to a club and make them worse, like a Sam Allardyce or a Roy Hodgson or something like that.
Sam Allardyce has retired from management. He said he's never going to manage again, but I do think that there's some jobs that will, persuade him to come out for sure. I wonder though whether Ashley Williams would have a thing to say, about Chris Koeman coming to Everton. I mean, Andy King plays for Leicester. I don't think Andy King is going to be, put the one persuasive tool for him to go to Leicester. But then also there's Seamus Coleman who's out injured. We don't know why. We never know why.
No.
No
idea why.
No idea why.
In terms of the next player who will get the sack, who is your... well, for me, there's 4 names. You've got Paul Clement, obviously of Swansea. They are in 15th place, but they have got the same as Everton, 8 points from 9 games.
They borrow time a lot. I think the difference with a lot of these is I don't believe many of them have had big losses in the recent weeks. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I think you need.
Swansea lost to Man United 4-0.
Yeah.
I suppose that's unexpected.
I would say that was the tipping point for a lot of Swansea fans because they conceded 3 goals in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It was a complete collapse.
Yes, I do remember that game now.
But my main pick for next player to get next
Bilic,
manager, sorry.
for sure.
Bilic?
I think Bilic.
I was going to say Roy Hodgson.
Oh, I don't think.
Crystal Palace are in 20th place with 3 points, and that was the win last week against
How many
Chelsea.
games is he at? 3 with them? 4?
It can't be more than 4.
Because they lost the first game, then they won.
But then you look at the
second,
teams he's played. Man City, he's played Chelsea. Obviously, he's played one more big team. Might be Spurs.
But when you think of an inspiring manager to drag a team from the dead, do you think of Roy Hodgson?
Absolutely not. But the fact is, he's only had 4 games or 5 games.
Okay, I see your point. But other than the other names, I agree with you in saying Slaven Bilic should definitely go. Because he wrote sort of I think it was a comment piece or a column, on West Ham's website declaring his dedication or love for the West Ham side, and then they lost 3-0 against Brighton.
That was brilliant. It was
perfect.
perfect. It was almost as good as Dick Advocat saying, "What? They're not going to win 8-0," and then Sweden won 8-0. It's literally that. But no, Bilic has been a dead man walking for over a year, I feel.
I mean, when we talk about West Ham and the teams that could potentially break into the top 6, a couple of seasons ago, West Ham were one of them.
The last season at the Bowling Ground, they were really good.
They were.
And they've now moved to London Stadium, and the fans are a mile away from the pitch. There's no atmosphere. It's dead. It's worse than Wembley. And I honestly just cannot see West Ham doing anything under Bilic ever.
It's crazy because they've conceded 17 goals, which obviously Watford have as well, but they've only scored 8. And with the players they brought in, you're expecting more from that. I mean,
you're not even starting Hernandez as a striker. Sorry.
Yeah, I know, but Arnautovic had a lot of criticism over the weekend. I can't remember who
Played
said
awfully.
it, but someone described him as that he thinks he's Ronaldo in his own head. But
He does, yeah.
He's a bit like Nicholas Bentner. But the thing is, Arnautovic has talent. I do like Arnautovic.
I'm a big fan as well.
Yeah. I thought that if he hadn't asked to leave Stoke and he was quite content there, then he could have easily gone for like 40 million. You know,
I was still shocked when he went for what he did. Wasn't it
25?
25. But
I thought that was a good signing in the summer.
Yeah, I did too.
To be fair, as well, the Hernandez deal was a phenomenal deal.
That was, yeah.
It's crazy. But then he's on a lot of money. I swear he's on like 180 a week.
Oh,
That's
wow.
mad.
I know. Like, it's not worth it.
But in terms of players who have sort of shone in a really poor West Ham side, Hernandez is one of them. I think Michael Antonio is probably one of them as well.
Yeah.
He was out for the start of the season, I believe. But
Yeah.
I mean, they couldn't wait for him to come back
But
for obvious reasons.
Those are the only 2 players that I can think of.
Andy
in the West Ham
Carroll.
side.
I like Andy
Yeah, I
Carroll.
like Andy Carroll.
He has a positive effect on West Ham.
He always seems to play
definitely.
well for them.
Yeah.
And you know, I do think he, in terms of a striker, is the best header of the ball in the world. Yes, better than Ronaldo.
Better than what's his name? Torino striker. You know,
Belotti.
Belotti, yeah.
Oh,
Probably not. No, because
Belotti's a good shout.
Belotti's 23.
well, they
isn't
said
he?
Morata was said to be the best header of the ball. I read the one.
Morata.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's got a very square head.
Nothing to do with his ability.
No, he's got a lot to aim at.
Another hypothetical name for next manager to get sacked. Mark Hughes, do you think?
No, I think it isn't. Other than
Stoke, just to put this into perspective, Stoke have got the same record as West Ham and Swansea and Everton of 9 games, 2 wins, 2 draws and 5 losses.
I'd be so
It's
frustrated as a Stoke fan. I mean, they had that time where they brought in, when they had Arnautovic, they had Bojan, they had Shakiri, and you're thinking, here we go, finally a Mark Hughes side that maybe might offer some attractive football. And it didn't come into the.
They're still relying on Peter Crouch to save them every now and again, aren't they? But I still think Mark Hughes is a good manager. I thought he would be a great fit for Wales. And if he does get sacked, who knows? Maybe he would go to Wales. I don't know.
I think that would be a perfect fit.
I'd love that.
Even if it was a straight swap between Koeman and Mark Hughes, like Koeman going to Stoke,
shake
Mark
hands,
Hughes going to Wales.
change kit.
Look at me, I am manager now. No, in all seriousness though, I just think that he would be really, really hard done by. He's done so well. I can say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure, other than Arsene Wenger, he is the longest-serving manager in the Premier League.
You look at managers, and a lot of managers, especially like Pochettino, you'll see them as having their own project at the club. I mean, where's he going with this team?
Well, he's 5 years deep, or something like that.
I don't understand.
But I still think he's underperforming. Because that Stoke side on paper is quality.
Yeah.
It's decent. The defence is probably a bit shoddy, but
I mean, they had that one year a few years ago where everyone had the Stoke defence as in their fantasy team because they were solid.
They were rock. Yeah.
And you think you then get the forwards to come in, which they did.
Even Shawcross has had a decent couple of seasons at Stoke in recent years. And their attack especially, when you had the likes of Boney, Arnautovic,
they brought in
Bojan, Shaqiri.
Hesse.
Oh, Hesse Rodriguez.
He's a great player.
Against us, he was.
You got Hesse.
He scored in his first game for Stoke, didn't he?
Yeah.
Against us. I just think that there's things that need to get ticking in that team. Arnautovic left, and he was a big part. He was starting every single game for Stoke, no doubt. And he was by far the best player.
I think it was good business on Stoke's behalf to get rid of him.
He's a loose cannon.
They've brought in Jesse Rodriguez on loan as sort of not for replacement, but they got 25 million for Arnautovic, which for a club like Stoke, it's good money. You would take it.
But people actually forget that Jesse Rodriguez is like 6'1". Like he's a lot taller than people think that he is. It's quite funny.
He had a bit of a shaky spell at PSG.
That was a disaster. It was a disaster, and then he ended up going to Las Palmas, which is in, I believe, Tenerife, and that's where he grew up. So he did play really well. So
But in his final sort of seasons for Real Madrid, I did rate Jesse Rodriguez. I mean, he's not the youthful player that he was back in the day, but I still think he definitely showed glimpses of a quality, especially in his first game for Stoke, shall we say?
He's got a job to do somewhere, and I think Stoke could be that place.
Yeah. You never know. They could end up playing him up front. Or in number 10, somewhere like that. Who knows?
Sure.
He's got great tactical ability about him.
Right, moving on.
Moving on. So we get into our rubbish transfer rumour of the week. It's a big story, this one.
I hate this one with so much passion.
But once you think logically, it's not all that far-fetched. Obviously, of course...
I'm thinking logically, Ross.
We're talking about
thinking logically hard.
We're talking about the Mesut Ozil to Manchester United rumours. Obviously, Jose Mourinho previously worked with him at Real Madrid. Mourinho does rate the player quite highly. He's one of the only ones. I'm joking.
Thanks.
But,
Ross is looking for beef.
But Mesut Ozil, his contract obviously runs out at Arsenal at the end of the season, so Arsenal might be looking to cash in.
Yeah,
because they could definitely get a solid 25 to 30 million.
It'd be a January
only because he's got such short time left at the end of his contract.
I'd say you wouldn't sell it to one of your contenders.
But it's Arsene Wenger.
So
it's Arsene Wenger. He was going to sell Sanchez to Man City.
Yeah.
You might still do it at the end of the season.
Well, January we'll have to if we're going to get anything for them.
But
Would you want him?
I've heard no. God no.
Please take it.
I've heard a lot of people say that for both Ozil and Sanchez, that the best way to do it is to let them ride out their contracts, have one good season of success with them, and sacrifice the maybe 30 or 20 million that you would get for the player. Because I think
try and push for the Champions League.
In terms of like the financial returns on qualifying for the Champions League, I think are a lot higher than the transfer fees that they would get.
I think that could backfire.
Plus, Ozil's agent is demanding £350,000 a week for the player.
Excuse me?
Arsenal.
Excuse me?
Exactly.
I'll just release him.
On the 20th of October, the Mirror reported that Ozil is so confident Manchester United transfer will happen. He is telling teammates it's in the bag. And according to the report, Arsenal will try to sell Ozil in January as he will not sign a new contract, and the Gunners don't want to let him go for free.
Well, who's the Mirror's source? Aaron Ramsey.
He's definitely not. What's the BBC journalist name that's really well regarded? Ornstein. David Ornstein.
Okay.
He's a don. But
big up David Ornstein.
I'd follow him on Twitter. He's a really reliable guy.
I do like him.
Yeah, but
I talking about Phil McNulty for a minute.
Is he the one
No,
who's
no.
associated with Arsenal?
Yeah.
Or-
He
I know
is.
the
He
one.
is the
I know
specific
one.
BBC reporter
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
Arsenal.
yeah.
He's
Jo-
really
John
reliable.
Cross, who I assume wrote this story as well, he's an Arsenal.
That might be the
Reporter.
one I'm thinking of. There's one
I
or
think
two.
it was
Probably
actually
was.
John Cross.
Yeah,
But-
he's reliable.
I mean, a few weeks ago, Wenger was confident that, came out saying that he was confident that contract talks were going
I
positively.
think in
with
terms of
Ozil.
Sanchez, but Ozil.
I think
Hasn't,
Sanchez.
he hasn't looked like he wanted to play for Arsenal in like 2 years.
I think Sanchez is more likely to leave, to be honest with you.
I-
Because
We
remember,
wanted to leave.
I think
Yeah,
it would be on better terms for Sanchez though, because I think a lot of Arsenal fans specifically do not hold Ozil in the same regard as perhaps in his first season.
I think Arsene Wenger is the key to Ozil staying, because obviously Wenger's got a contract now for the end of next
But then
season.
again, Jose Mourinho is also the key in making Ozil go.
Possibly, but when he signed, Ozil said that a massive factor
Yeah.
was Wenger signed.
Wenger spoke to him, I
spoke to him in
believe.
German. I think he actually flew out to Germany to speak to him as
Right,
well,
then, yeah.
personally, and just was all round kind of a nice bloke. And there's never been a single report that I've ever seen that said Ozil and Wenger have had a breakdown in relationship.
I hate to say it, but I think he's one of those players who's quite happy to be comfortable at Arsenal and not give his all every
Yeah.
week. So,
You're probably right.
I mean, in terms of he's not going to be the one getting blamed if Arsenal play poorly. It's obviously going to be Arsene Wenger that's the one that gets
Wenger's
blamed.
quite happy to take the blame. And
I know. A lot of heat has been thrown in the way of Mesut Ozil in terms of his lack of drive to perform in matches. He goes missing in a lot of matches. He only seems to play well when Arsenal themselves play well, stuff
Yeah.
like that. But do you think that Mesut Ozil could get back to the same form that he was at Real Madrid if he was motivated to play, or do you think he's literally just lost that frame
I
of
think
mind?
it's the difference between the leagues still. I mean, you've got to be more physical in the
But
Premier
he
League.
has had decent campaigns in the Premier League.
He has, but
I think it was the season before last that he was quality for Arsenal.
you don't have to defend as much, in La Liga. I mean, you can rely on
guess
your
so,
other players,
yeah.
but I mean,
Defenders also in La Liga are much weaker. They're not
Yeah,
as
true.
physical.
I still don't
True.
think Mesut Ozil's physical enough.
No.
I really don't.
He hasn't really adapted to the Premier League that
no,
well,
he
has
never
he?
really did. I don't
No,
think
you're
he
right.
ever really did, because he sort of reached the level which you spoke about, and then he was out for an injury for a long time, and just don't know.
But
I'd
just
be
to-
happy to get rid of him. To
Just
be
throwing it
honest.
out there, according to the report as well, the Gunners offered Ozil a £275,000, sorry, a week contract.
I thought they're not surprised that's what he wanted.
But apparently the Gunners are also not as interested now in keeping hold of the player.
Well, that's what I'm saying. January,
But
be a
they
boot
need to be
sale.
smart about it and look forward to business now, because in terms of players that are going to replace Sanchez and Ozil, who would you get?
It might be too late now. I mean, sorry to go back on it in terms of being smart about it.
But
We've already gone past that stage.
They
We've
might
let that
they might
contract
revisit
get there.
Thomas Lemar. I think Thomas Lemar
I
would
would
be a
take
great
Lemar any day,
ahead of
but-
Sanchez.
He'd have to play with Sanchez, but obviously if Sanchez goes, then of course. But,
Yeah, and in
yeah.
terms of a number 10, who would you get to replace Ozil?
I don't know. It's a hard one. Do you want to throw some names my way?
It's hard to think of a number 10 that's
Di
available.
Maria maybe. He's not
Straight
been
away.
getting a look in at PSG as much.
He's playing on the right though, isn't
Yeah.
he?
No, but Mbappe, Cavani, and Neymar is the solid front three.
I can't see Di Maria wanting to leave PSG. That paycheck he must be getting is
Draxler
unbelievable.
might
Draxler.
finally get
Drax has been
Oh,
with us a lot.
That is the greatest shout. Yeah,
A
yeah, yeah.
lot.
I would love to
I
see
know
him in the
I've
I've
Premier
always
League.
wanted Drax.
It's so it's
It's
so
a tease.
cliche, but he has
It's-
always
it's-
been the perfect fit for Arsenal.
It's
Always.
hardly a surprise pick, considering that Draxler to Arsenal rumours have been around since probably football began.
Yeah.
But in terms of the situation at PSG now, Draxler's not getting enough game time. and
Rumour
he
has
is-
it the minute that Draxler was born, his mum went, "He can play for Arsenal one day."
But yeah, I think the stars are starting to align now. I mean, a couple of years ago, apparently Wenger wanted to sign Draxler and turn him into a striker, I think.
I think the other point is whether we even need a number 10. I mean, we adopted the 3-4-3 on
You
the
still-
weekend.
You still need a player that will head the front three with Lacazette and Sanchez, or Sanchez's potential replacement.
Yeah.
So would you sign another winger, or would you sign a creative midfielder?
I think it just depends how the season goes and whether teams still
Or you
adopt
can
the
sign-
3 at the back.
You can sign both with Draxler. He can play.
Yeah,
he can play through
yeah,
the
you
middle.
could.
He can play on the wing. He's
And
still
it-
relatively young
And
as
when
well.
you consider these players, it's whether Arsenal, we make transfer deals so complicated, and they are already complicated.
Well, I think Arsenal sort of shot himself in the foot in the summer by offering £92 million for Lamar. So if he was to approach Monaco for that deal again, he would have to fork out a similar fee.
They did accept. I heard there was
They
a lot of rumours
accepted
they
it.
accepted
And then
You
Arsenal
went,
was just
oh
like, nope.
God, no,
Yeah,
nope,
yeah.
nope.
What am I doing? But in terms of Julian Draxler, I do think PSG would let Draxler go for probably 30 to 40 million, which would be a good deal in today's market.
Sanchez was linked with PSG as well, so
But then they signed
whether he would
Neymar
now,
and
so,
Mbappe. So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
if he's going anywhere, he's going to City, I think.
Well,
Which is criminal.
but bear in mind, PSG next season have got to fork out, I think it's 140 million
if they do
euros.
sign him.
No, it's
Oh.
obligation to buy. They've got to.
Oh,
So-
really?
so the-
They didn't sign him this year because of financial fair play, because they already signed
Oh,
Neymar. So this year's a
whatever that
loan,
is.
next year's. So
Look,
financial fair play is non-existent. at
So
this point.
basically, what I'm saying is, next season or coming up to,
So
if
they
you
have-
see any PSG rumor that they're going to splash ridiculous money, it's ridiculous. It's
Right.
not going to.
No.
It's not going to happen.
Well, they're set for the next couple of years now, PSG.
They
they've got-
recruited good young
Yeah,
players.
They did, yeah. And they've still got the likes of Lucas on the bench, who I think is bound to go at some point.
He'd get fed up eventually.
Yeah,
wouldn't
they've got
Lucas
they've
Moura.
got Julian Draxler. They've got Verratti, who's
Rabiot.
arguably the best midfielder under the age of
that
25
defender I mentioned to
in
you
the
still
world.
young, isn't he? Marquinhos.
Marquinhos.
They got
Marquinhos.
Yeah.
They got Rabiot as well in midfield. He's a great young talent.
I
They've
like
got-
him. Aye.
They've got Pastore. They've got really good depth.
Pastore is
Fabio
quite old
Pastore.
now, but
Yeah, he
Thiago
is, yeah.
Motta. I mean, he's 34 now, but
he's
yeah,
quite old. As
yeah,
well.
yeah, but
Can't have a go at me for saying Pastore.
It's a good balance
Same
in that
Motta.
team. It's a good
oh,
balance.
yeah. What I'm saying is, like, they got a squad set for now, and even when these players leave, they're still there. You know.
They need to sharpen up their defence, though, I think, PSG. Because in terms of left back, they've got Kitsau, which is all right. Right back, they've got that Belgian, I think it's Munier.
Yeah, but he's scored
He's really
a lot
great.
of goals this
He's
year.
really great, but in terms of centre-backs, I still think they could do better than Marquinhos.
In fact, their best centre-back prospect, other than maybe Marquinhos, because
Marquinhos is a quality player, but I mean...
he's not a prospect anymore, is he?
No, he's like 23, 24.
Yeah, well,
Still not
they
bad.
let
When
one
he signed for PSG, he was like 21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He signed from Roma, and he was a really good player, like a really good young player,
yeah,
which was quite mad.
they let one of their best youth academy players go to RB Leipzig. In the summer, and I was like, I thought he was good. He was playing for the under-21s for France.
What, Roma?
No,
I
PSG.
was
Sorry.
going to say.
Yeah, and I think he was a centre back. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, you're right. They need to strengthen the centre back. Is what I'm saying. That was the point of that point. Yeah.
Tangent.
Right, we're
Strong.
going back onto Ozil. Can you see it happening?
Yeah.
Would you
I
want-
mean,
would you want him-
historically, with how we do transfers, yeah, definitely.
Would you want him to go?
Not to another Premier League. Well, I don't know, actually. He might be a poison chalice to pass on, but...
We'll put it this way: next time you play Man United, when he signed for
I
them,
don't
you
think
know
that'd
that Ramsey will have him in his back
Yeah, I
pocket.
don't-
To
I'd
me,
be
it
worried.
doesn't seem like a coincidence that Ozil decided to play well as soon as rumours came out.
Don't think he will. I don't think he'll move to another Premier League side. I think he's had enough of the Premier League stick.
Imagine Ozil to PSG. I'm just going to throw that out there. Imagine that happening.
That's just too much. Depth.
It's
That's
too
just
much. It's
at
too
some
much.
point.
But that front three with Ozil behind him, imagine and he would be given all the free roam he wanted. He could be as lazy or as into it as he wanted.
I think if Juventus did decide to push Paulo Dybala up front, I think Ozil will make a good fit for Juventus.
Italian
That's a
league
good
generally,
shout.
I
That's a
think.
really good shout.
Maybe even AC Milan. You've seen the project that they've got going
He's the
on.
type of player, personally, I could see going to somewhere like the Chinese league. I really can. Especially with his
yes.
agent.
But just to,
Okay,
to
yeah.
clarify, I would be quite disappointed if United did sign Ozil, because that means that Mkhitaryan, my boy Mkhitaryan, wouldn't get his time
For any
at
amount,
number
though?
10.
Any amount? Or would you be disappointed if you paid a lot?
I don't rate
full
Ozil
stop?
that highly, to be honest, to
I don't
begin
either.
with.
But here's the question: do you want Ozil at number 10 at United or Jesse Lingard?
Neither. Do I have to take one?
I'd rather have none, no one there. Just a big gap in the middle of the pitch.
I'd rather Phil Jones at number 10. The midfield.
Victor Lindelof can go there. Oh,
You
God.
can do your job at not defending. Further up the
Yeah,
pitch.
you can get turned inside out
Yeah,
by their centre backs.
Even Ozil's a better defender at the moment than Lindelof.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
Poor kid. He's just trying to make a living.
So this leads us into our biggest debate of the show.
This is going to be
I'm
a
not looking
long
forward
discussion.
to it.
Oh gosh.
So we debuted the sort of list format last episode, I think, with best players outside the top 6. I think it was probably a top 5, but no, we brought.
It was individually, but we had our honourable mentions.
So we decided.
Were you here last week, Ross?
Maybe. Not in spirit. But I'm joking. But yeah, we're sort of giving this a go. It's like a top 5 sort of segment. So this week we have got top 5 players in the Premier League. We have been debating this
basically since we spoke about it.
We did,
it was mentioned.
It's been so, and we've tried so hard to like not mention who we've got, but every time someone mentions someone who we didn't have in our top 5, we just have a scowl across the room. Oh, it was so bad.
But okay, so the way this is going to go, we'll start from 5. We'll lead it through to 1. We'll each discuss our pick for that certain number. So we'll start off with 5. So I'll discuss my 5th pick, Bev will discuss his 5th pick, Liam will discuss his 5th pick, and we'll discuss why we have them in that position, and we'll do that through to
I'm
number
hoping
1.
someone has the same ones as mine, like in the same one, and then you send the air high five
across the room.
Well, if you've listened to this podcast for the last 4 weeks, you will definitely know who we think is the best player in the Premier League, but we'll leave that till number 1. So we'll start off with honourable mentions.
Yes, that's a good shout, because the way I decided to do this was I did my top 10, and then just kind of, or my 10 favourite players in the Premier League, and then just kind of fiddled around with like what position I think they're going to be. So the players I've got missing out: Hazard.
Yep, same.
David Silva.
Same.
Sanchez.
I did. He didn't make it in the final cut.
Mane. I do like Mane a lot.
I put Coutinho in. So.
And Pogba. I'm sorry, Ross.
No, that's completely fine.
Pogba honourable mentions.
I only had 3 honourable mentions, and you've mentioned all 3. So
wow.
My main honourable mention was Paul Pogba because, he's just technical ability. He's probably one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. I've also got Eden Hazard. I just think, in terms of mental attitude, and I think Hazard, when he is on his day, Hazard's absolutely quality and sublime. But I think there are 5 better players in the Premier League at the moment.
For sure.
And then David Silva, he's one of the players that I think is
severely
underrated because he has been quality for Man City since joining. I think he joined in 2010,
so long as well.
He's been there a long time.
So many different teams around.
So his service to Man City has been quality, and I think he is still a quality player.
And I think there was actually a time when he was the best player in the Premier League.
He was.
Yeah, there was absolutely. But I'm not even that he slipped up. Just there's just better players around him.
I know you're going to argue with putting Paul Pogba in the honourable mentions, but just to put this into perspective, I mentioned earlier he has 4 league games before getting injured, 2 goals and 2 assists. So that's a contribution every game. Last season, many considered it to be a bad season for him, but according to WhoScored.com, his average match rating was 7.72, which is miles better than Andres Iniesta's.
I like how that's the point of reference now. He's better than Iniesta.
But in terms of this season, even though he's only played 4 games, his average match rating in all competitions is 8.09 this season.
Ooh. I mean, in terms of the stat last year, I think in that team last year, I probably could have racked up a solid 7 average per game. I'm sorry, but this year I've been impressed with him. But
I was going to say, maybe you just need refreshing your memory because he's been out for 4 or 5 weeks, but he is.
Did you not even have him in the honourable mentions, Lee?
No.
What were your honourable mentions?
I thought he was worth.
I threw Coutinho in there.
No, that's a shout.
If Barcelona come back to buy you 3 higher bids each time?
Yeah,
I respect the shout.
Thomas Lemar, £92 million. Would you rate him in the top 5 players in the world, top 10 players in the world?
We're not talking about that though. He's definitely one of the top 5 players in the league.
In terms of, if we're talking strictly transfer fees with Philip Coutinho, I think Coutinho.
I know, just in terms of transfer fees, but
Coutinho goes missing a lot.
Player.
I honestly think that, like I say, Mane is better than Coutinho.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, purely because, Coutinho, he can go missing. Every now and again he'll score a worldie, and the Liverpool fans will be like, that's the Coutinho I know and love. And
he can't score goals within the
6-yard
box.
or even the 18-yard box. No, but what Mane does consistently, and if he could stay fit, if he could not go to the Africa Cup of Nations, if he could stay in Liverpool for a full season, he would do bits. I'm a big fan of him.
He's still really young as well, Mane.
Yeah.
They're both in the Liverpool team, so I mean, put him in another team.
But we're not talking. We're not going to say Salah or Firmino or anywhere near those two. I think there is a big gap in skill between those two, and then
that's what I'm saying.
There are
they
other
played for
front
Liverpool, another team.
Anyway,
who knows?
we're digressing already.
Honourable mentions.
We're digressing already, boys.
Okay,
oh gosh,
who's going to start with the number 5?
Oh, Bev, I feel like I've got the same as Bev. I'm just sensing it.
Everyone just snapped their head to me. I think even Donald in the back there just looked up.
Okay.
Anyway, sure. Number 5, I've got David De Gea.
No, you let me down.
I'm sorry, boys. I'm sorry.
No.
I felt I was giving every position in the league a consideration. I don't think there are any centre backs or defenders who deserve to be up there.
No, same with me.
But I gave midfielders, strikers, and goalkeepers a full shout.
Like they normally do.
Maybe Vincent Kompany a couple of seasons ago, he would have definitely got into my list. But
yes,
there's no standout centre back in the league at the moment.
For sure.
The defence in the league at the moment.
But what got it for me was thinking, what makes, for example, a world-class player rather than just a good player? And I think it's overperforming in a poor team. And then that side that Man United have got, where they've got an awful defence. Even now, it's not great, is it?
No. To be fair, our defence last season was the best it's been in probably 5 years.
True, but the season before
was woeful.
It was woeful.
Woeful.
So
when you're starting Daily Blind at left centre back, things are sort of getting a bit.
Exactly.
So don't talk too much about David De Gea.
I know he's coming up in your list, but the point I wanted to make was that he by far is the best player in that team, and also
for sure,
the player that carries his team on more occasions than anyone else.
He won the United Player of the Year 4 seasons in a row before Valencia won it last year.
There we are.
And it's so good to see him grow as a player as well.
Well, he had a really poor first season at United as well, and even the season directly after the season that we won the league, the season that obviously Van Persie came to United, he was still our best player.
With the physicality,
so when he joined. That's my number 1 pick.
Or
number 5
number
pick.
1.
That's it. Podcast over. De Gea best in the world.
Okay, we never record another episode ever,
I'll hit you with my number 5, which is Alexis Sanchez.
Yes.
Oh gosh.
Alexis Sanchez. Obviously he joined Arsenal from Barcelona in 2014 for just £31.7 million. How do you feel about that?
Bench player for them. So again, we didn't pick one of their star players out.
Pedro was getting in the lineup ahead of him. I don't get that. Anyway. Just 4 appearances in the league so far this season, but he's still got 1 goal and 2 assists from the wing. He has an average rating in the Premier League this season of 7.47. The stats don't necessarily go in his favour, but it was more last season that makes him come in my list. Last season he scored 24 goals and assisted 10 in 36 appearances.
If it wasn't for that last weekend when Kane scored 4, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Then he was up there for the Golden Boot.
I think he would have still come second with Lukaku. But I know what you mean.
Yeah, but
Sanchez, he's a winger, and he's pulling. I know he played mainly strike up front last season, but he
didn't actually much.
No, he didn't. He was on the wing.
He played striker a fair amount anyway, but for a winger, he is hands down the best winger in. Let me just check. I am not contradicting myself right now. He's the best winger in the league at the moment. I believe.
I'm inclined to agree.
I think individually,
he's not in my top 5, but then I haven't got any wingers in my top 5.
Oh,
so
that's interesting.
I know.
I don't either. Actually.
I think I did put Hazard above him just because Hazard has done it for longer. Hazard's been in the Premier League longer.
But in terms of, like you said earlier, with De Gea, we're overperforming in a poor team. Sanchez is the epitome of that with that Arsenal squad, I believe.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially last season.
Player.
There's been times where Arsenal at their worst has been still better than Man United at their worst.
Yeah, I agree with that, but this season. Anyway,
we're not arguing. We're just kind of.
We're not arguing, but I think
Oh, God.
Alexis Sanchez definitely in my top 5 for
He says
Premier League
tackling
players.
me across the room.
And I don't think any of you
feel
would.
awful for my top 5 pick. The
Would
fifth one.
you argue against me putting Alexis in my top 5?
Well, yesterday when we mentioned this, because obviously you said we were speaking about it every now and then, I originally said Sanchez was getting in my top 5, without.
I originally
without a
said
doubt.
Sanchez wasn't, and you looked at me funny.
Yeah, I
And
did.
that was even.
when I
I think
looked
that
at
was
it-
yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
It was
Yeah, it was
yesterday.
yesterday.
Yeah, we talked about it.
But yeah, no. I mean, he was so close. He's still. I don't know, because this list could
Is he
change
number 6?
last minute.
Is he number 6
Oh,
if
yeah.
he's not number 5?
Okay.
Okay.
Liam, hit us with your 5th pick.
Oh, I feel really bad now. I haven't really, like I said to you, I didn't really put them in order. I was just sort of going to go at spur of the moment, like who I felt. But I feel quite bad. And I've thrown Kante at 5th. I know. That was just mental. I know, it's bad. It's
You
bad.
didn't even make my honourable mentions.
Yeah,
Oh my God, boys.
only because that position is so underrated.
Right, so you can talk about him, then we'll immediately skip to Ross's number 4, because he's my number 4.
Oh, you were completely. I was thrown off by the reaction.
No,
Oh,
because
thank
the
goodness.
way that
Okay,
Ross...
okay, you two just vent about N'Golo
The way
Kante
that
now.
Ross looked then, he was like, oh, there's just no way. And I'm like, oh
No,
God, I had him
Let
higher
me just
than
check who my number 4
De Gea.
is. Yeah, okay.
No, because
Yeah.
that
Okay,
position is
you both can
underrated.
talk about N'Golo Kante. if
Well, we've
you want.
already talked about it on the show, but I mean, Liam, take the reins, because...
No, I mean, I mainly put him there as just, like I said, that position's so underrated. Those type of players are never considered. I mean, he did get a Ballon d'Or nomination. didn't
Yes,
he?
I believe so.
Last 2 years, actually, I
Thank
believe.
goodness. But yeah, I mean, he speaks for himself. Creative-wise, he doesn't really excel, but that's not what he does.
Yeah, like I say, he just plays a bit like Claude Makelele, and he mops up, he drives the ball forward, doesn't necessarily get the assists or the goals because that's not what he's there to do.
Yeah.
He for sure won Leicester the league. Just his consistent performances won them, dug them out of trouble so many times, and then he went and did it with Chelsea.
Even at Leicester, you had players like Jamie Vardy and Riyad Mahrez who were performing insanely well. He was still the only player out of the 3 to get a top-tier move away from Leicester to Chelsea.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's a
If you
very
look
good
at it
point.
that way.
Very good point.
I mean, I said to you, when I made my list, I sort of made the top Premier League 11, and you sort of criticised maybe the logic behind it. But if you are to apply that logic, he's the spine, definitely a part of the spine if you were to make a Premier League 11.
If you're going to make an 11
Without
that
doubt.
would play together, when people talk about Premier League 11s, they kind of usually just put the best player in each position in their opinion. But realistically, if that team played together, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But if you played someone...
Yeah, I've seen them like start 3 at the back and put in like Kevin De Bruyne and CDM or stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
it's like, no.
It's like the team you could make in FIFA.
Just put a few chem stars on him, it's fine.
Yeah.
No, but if you put Kante behind someone who I won't speak about because I'm speaking about him later, he would do bits. He would do absolute bits.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ross, your number 4, please.
My number 4. You're all gonna laugh at me for this.
Oh,
No,
no.
you're not. This is gonna go
Am
to
I gonna run out the room?
either of 2 ways. My number 4 pick is Harry Kane.
Oh
No,
no!
it's not bad.
No,
not bad.
no.
It's not bad.
Okay, so far in the league, in 9 appearances in the league, he's got 8 goals and 1 assist, and that's obviously excluding the goalless August that he had.
Yeah.
In the Champions League this season, in the 3 games in the Champions League, he's got 5 goals and 1 assist.
Oh God!
And
This is
his
crazy.
average Premier League ratings, according to who scored this season, has been
It's gotta be
8.01,
an
which is
8,
decent.
Yeah.
He's the Golden Boot winner of last season with his madness that he did in the last weekend, with 29 goals and 7 assists, which is mental. And when he burst onto the scene in 2014-15, many people did dub him as a one-season wonder. But that was in
Many
2014.
Arsenal fans.
That was in 2014. That season he got 21 goals in 28 games, and that was his breakout season. The next season he got 25 goals in 38 games, and then obviously last season he got 29 goals and 7 assists. So he is not a one-season wonder.
The Spurs fans sing it now as like as an ironic chant. It's brilliant. I love to see that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
In terms of his career so far, obviously he's only 24 years old at the moment, but in 125 appearances in the league, he's got 86 goals and 13 assists.
God, he's so good.
He is really good, and
And that's why he's my number 1.
so yeah, I just think Harry Kane, I'm going to contradict myself and saying that he's the... No, I'm not going to say it, because that'll give away my pick. But he is definitely the best English player of the last probably 4 years, I think.
4?
Well, since... Well,
Go back to Rooney 08.
Since Rooney was in his prime, he is hands down the best English player.
Yes.
That's what they've been looking for.
He's only 24 as well. Only 24 for a striker.
I love him.
It's 'cause he's
and that's why he's actually my number 3. So yeah,
Okay.
I feel really bad.
Okay. Before we get, we'll get to Liam's
number 4, please.
My 4's De Gea anyway. We've already gone over.
Oh, okay.
So
that works
don't
out.
really need to state much about it.
Okay. So Bev, will you gush to me about Harry Kane?
Oh, well, what is there to be said that we haven't said already on this show? We talk about him too much. You've got a whole segment dedicated to him. I just think that in terms of, he's so exciting to watch. He does these things. I mean, sure, he capitalises on a lot of mistakes, but isn't that what strikers do?
It is.
He is the epitome of a poacher.
He's got a great technical ability about him for a striker.
And he's quick for
it's not
someone
like,
who's physique.
It's not like he hangs around in the box either. He does pick the ball up like in the wings and like starts running at defenders.
Against Liverpool, sorry, I cut you off. Against Liverpool, he had one defensive clearance. He lost the ball in the attack in Liverpool's box, ran 98 yards all the way back and made a tackle and then cleared it. Why? I don't know why, but it works. And he's he should not be doing that, but it was under the cosh, and I think that was before he'd even scored his second goal, so it was 3-1 at the time. So he's just he's just working for the team. He's brilliant. He's a brilliant player,
and he's a great playmaker as well.
Yeah, you could play him in number 10 if you had to, for sure. You already talked about a pass he made that was almost De Bruyne-esque.
Yeah.
Anyway, your number 3, please, Ross.
My number 3 is. This is probably be quite a controversial pick, but my number 3 is Sergio Aguero.
No.
Well, he's
no.
not.
I hate
this. He's not in your top 5, or he's higher up.
He's higher.
Oh, okay.
He's higher up for me as well.
You've got to put Aguero. No, sorry.
Okay.
I love Aguero.
I'm just going to quickly talk about Sergio Aguero before you two do. So he's got 6 appearances so far in the league. Obviously, he was out with injury. 7 goals and 3 assists in 6 league matches, with an average rating, according to Who Scored, of 7.89. Last season he scored 20 and assisted 3 in 25 games, which is a really good record. He is now, as we mentioned earlier, City's joint highest goal scorer ever, with 177 goals. He will hands down break that, if not, well, probably tonight, or if City are playing, but definitely this week. He will probably score 4 this week if he wanted to, and
if he decides to.
in terms of his total Premier League appearances, he's got 188 with 129 goals and 32 assists.
Crazy.
And Sergio Aguero, if it wasn't for so many players, if it wasn't for players being better than him this season, I would well, definitely last year or 2 years ago, I'd argue him as being in the top 5 best Premier League players ever. And I think a lot of people.
I think he's in that conversation still.
Yeah, but I still think that at the moment and in the last season, there are 2 players that are better than him in the league, and that's the only thing that's keeping him from being my number 1.
So hit us with your number 2, because I think me and Liam might have the same top 2.
Well, my third was Harry Kane, like yourself, so we're not doing too bad at the moment.
Okay, so we're on a similar.
We're on a similar level.
Yeah. So do you want to mention anything about Harry Kane, or should we continue talking about Sergio Aguero? Okay, so.
I know it's talking about Kane.
Is Sergio Aguero your number 2?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Is he your number 2 as well?
I don't know. I'm still debating. I probably put him as number 1.
Bev, you talk about Sergio Aguero.
No. No. I just think that his record speaks for himself. He's played so well for such a long time. I just think that he deserves to be. My favourite Premier League player ever, probably player ever, is Thierry Henry. I forgot for a second, and God.
Thanks, I know you better than you know yourself, Bev.
Oh, well, thanks, Ross. It's Thierry Henry, and when I watch Aguero play, and you're going to think it's a really dumb comparison, I genuinely see a little bit of him in that. I just think that the way that he plays off the striker, but then just finds himself with space in the box, he can shoot from anywhere and seems to score. I just think Aguero is a fantastic player. And I don't if he isn't top 5 greatest Premier League players ever, because I know there's a lot of 14-year-olds who like to think that someone like, I don't know, Patrick Vieira is, even though he only played 2 seasons at Arsenal, but even though they never watched him play. then he's definitely top 5 strikers ever in the Premier League.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's no
for
doubt.
sure.
Probably top 3.
I'd argue top 3. Probably him, Shearer, and Thierry Henry.
Okay.
Top 3.
Hit me with your number 2s then, lads.
I'll go
Nice.
first because I have a feeling that we've all got either the same number 1
Either
or you've got the
yeah.
Similar.
Yeah. So my number 2 is actually David De Gea.
Oh, wow.
I think what else can be said about David De Gea? I've just got a quick few stats. I think at the moment, in terms of current form, he is the best goalkeeper in the world. In terms of right now,
I'm biting my tongue.
Okay.
I think Manuel Neuer is quality, and he is definitely.
Neuer's the best goalkeeper in the
Okay,
world, but
I'm
if you're going on
contradicting
form-
myself because I
Well,
think.
Neuer's injured.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
If
so-
you're going on
but
form.
I think definitely at the beginning of this, it's a really close 1 and 2 between Neuer and De Gea for me, because Neuer doesn't carry Bayern Munich to winning games or to success. David De Gea has done that at United for 5 years.
True, but I would say De Gea, Neuer at times has carried Germany.
He has
Those
but-
World Cup, World Cup and Euro when he was brilliant.
But
And there was that one season where Messi, I believe, won the Ballon d'Or and Ronaldo came second and he came third
Yeah.
and he 100% should have won it.
yeah, I
that
remember
year.
I remember that. But how old is Manuel Neuer at the moment? He's definitely towards 30, isn't he?
He's the wrong end of 30, aye.
Yeah. David De Gea is only 26.
Is he? I forget
He's
that.
only
sometimes.
26.
a few years at Real Madrid, didn't him?
don't, please no.
Ross's heart just broke slowly.
Well,
yeah,
at least he's
Neuer's 31. Just
Yeah, Neuer's 31, okay.
okay.
But so at least David De Gea didn't move to Real Madrid for 30 million 2 seasons ago. He would easily go for probably 70 to 80 at the moment, I'd argue, because of his age, obviously. I think the best, I think Thibaut Courtois is a quality goalkeeper, and he is significantly younger than David De Gea, but in terms of the best young, younger than 27 years old goalkeeper, I think the only person that comes up to David De Gea is Jan Oblak, probably.
Ooh.
I think if there was a player that I'd
Move
want
Below
below
27.
27, I
Hey.
think.
Sorry.
Ben missed
Did I
that.
just zone
Yeah,
out
yeah,
completely?
yeah.
I thought you said below 37.
Oh my gosh.
There's
Thibaut Courtois.
there's 2 players that I would get in to replace David De Gea, and that's Jan Oblak and probably Leno from Bayern Leverkusen. But David De Gea is just world class, hands down. He is the only hands down world class player in United's starting 11. And I think, like you said, that it says a lot about a team if a goalkeeper is your best player. But when your goalkeeper is David De Gea, it's hard for outfield players to be better than him at what he does.
I take those points. I don't amend my list, but I take them, I accept them. So now, it's time for the big moment. The number 1. I think we all...
No, number 2s. Yours number 2s.
I've said my number 2.
Who's your number 2?
It was Aguero.
It was a great. Okay, that's fine. Your number 2, Lee. Come on, you need to decide right now. Because I have a feeling we've all got the same number 1s.
Yes, we do. So, go on, make it a hat trick.
Oh, fine. I'll relegate Aguero.
Okay, do you want to talk a little bit more about Aguero?
I just love everything about him.
He's just a complete striker, isn't he?
It's something about, though, I don't know how tall he is, but it's something about those sort of shorter strikers, that low centre of sort of Messi-like. But
He could play on the wing easily.
if it wasn't for injuries, then he wouldn't be in the Premier League. He'd be
at Madrid, but in a
he'd
second.
be in the Liga. He'd probably be up there,
Well, there was talk, really odd transfer rumour a few years ago that he was going to go to Real Madrid, but his wife, who he was divorcing, who was Diego Maradona's daughter, was living in Madrid and he didn't want to go and live near her. So that could have kept them.
He also used to play for Atletico Madrid.
I don't think that really matters too much for him.
Okay.
It shouldn't. Because
Fair enough.
he's a quality. Anyway, I'm contradicting a little bit.
So,
Should we do this big reveal? Because I think, like I said, we've all got...
Kevin De Bruyne.
I was going to say Wilfried Zaha.
I'm glad you said it. I had a slight seed of
Hate
doubt
you.
that I was going to completely
No.
overlook the player.
I assume your boy's number 1 is the same. Mine is Kevin De Bruyne.
No, mine's Wilfried
I
Zaha.
think originally it probably was Aguero. Until you
That was
sort
the
of-
2 that you interchanged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he is.
Just because Aguero, for the years he's done in the Premier League.
Yeah, definitely
on
at the moment the best player in the Premier League
Yeah.
is Kevin De Bruyne for sure.
Absolutely. It's my number 1. I'm obviously not... I don't like Wilfried Zaha. I just dislike him. I just dislike
to
him.
justify that.
The only justification I've got is that he's doing well now and didn't do it at Cardiff when we gave him a chance to revitalise his career.
Back on De Bruyne.
Yeah, De Bruyne is the best player in probably the best midfielder in the world at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you really not say?
I said to you about Jesus struggling, or a player in that front team, to shine, but he does that with all that quality around him, and he's still the standout player.
He's doing what David Silva did do for Man City's attack a couple of years ago, but he's doing it so much better, and he's actually scoring goals as well.
Yeah.
Which is mad. I think you could easily play him as a false 9 in a team, and he could be great.
Oh, he'd be fantastic.
You
in
could
that
play him
position.
on the wing. You could play him at centre mid. You could probably play him at striker, even if you let him. I think De Bruyne is the complete midfielder, attacking midfielder anyway. Defensively,
But he does play deep. He does play deep.
He has
though.
been playing a deeper role under Pep Guardiola, but there's no doubt in saying that his best position is at an attacking an attacking midfielder role.
Mm-hmm.
But he is the most complete midfielder at the moment. He in 12 games across all competitions, he's got 2 goals and 8 assists. Like I mentioned earlier, he's topping the Premier League assist charts with 6 at the moment.
Yes.
I think David Silva's just behind him now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But we've talked about David Silva enough. It's now De Bruyne hour.
Yeah.
But we've gushed about him enough on the podcast.
You should have seen this coming. If you've listened to this before, you know full well that it was De Bruyne.
His average rating on WhoScored.com is 8.11 at the moment, which is mad. He again, like De Gea, he's only 26 years old. 2016-17. I keep forgetting how long he's been at Man City for.
It's been a little while, isn't it? Like 3 years.
Yeah. This is his third season at Man City, which is mad. In last year, he got 6 goals and 18 assists in 33 league appearances. His lowest rating so far for WhoScored was 7.62. That's his lowest, but that was the 5-0 win against Crystal Palace.
Great stat.
Just a fun
brilliant
stat to put out there. But Kevin De Bruyne. What else more can be said?
There is nothing more to be said about him. He's a fantastic player, and the problem is, he does put up numbers, but occasionally, he'll play. He got 2 assists against. Who did they beat 6-0 the other week? Was it? It was at the Etihad anyway. Might have been 5-0. You never know anymore at this point. They just win 5 or 6-0 every week.
I think it was 6-0. Hang on, I'll get it now.
But he got 2 assists, but he was by far the best player on the pitch, even though I think Jesus might have scored twice or something like that.
Yeah, we talked about him playing that pass before the assist.
I didn't even know that's how he was going to do it, and I saw that goal 4 times, and I still, on occasion, thought that ball was going into the box. It was crazy. There's a number of things that this boy can do, and I couldn't sing his praises enough. I really couldn't.
I'm scared for when we play them, I think, in 2 weeks' time. Really scared.
Question is, he's obviously moved from Chelsea to Wolfsburg a couple of years ago. Do you think that Chelsea are really kicking themselves right now, or do you think
it was Chelsea at the time?
What's that?
Who was manager at Chelsea?
It must be Mourinho.
Jose.
Yeah.
But he also let Nemanja Matic go.
He's got it in his locker.
The point is, he really learnt his trade in the Bundesliga, though.
He did, yeah. I would say.
I
would argue that De Bruyne wouldn't be the same player he is now if he didn't go to Wolfsburg.
No, I would say that's right.
He was so good at Wolfsburg, though, as well.
Yeah, he was brilliant. And now look at Wolfsburg. The last 3 years he hasn't been there. They've been awful.
Yeah.
And they got relegated last year.
And then how much did City end up spending on De Bruyne? Was it about
60 million? It looks a bargain.
It
looks a bargain in comparison. In this climate,
that team.
I honestly think he's worth 200 million in this climate.
That was before as well that the whole transfer prices got heavily inflated due to partly due to the Neymar deal and the Pogba deal as a consequence of that. But 60 million a couple of years ago was a lot of money.
It was before Pogba.
Yeah.
So he was at one point the highest.
Di Maria was the same transfer fee. He was 60.
I was going to say into the Premier League. I think they were the same at least. Yeah.
But in terms of 3 years ago, 60 million. That's a lot of money. But for 3 years of what he's done so far at Man City is worth the £60 million alone, and he's only 26.
You break that to 20 million a season, and it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Yeah. Right. Well, I think we've done gushing over KDB for one show. I think we'll probably have to do it a bit next week. What's the next topic, Ross?
The next topic, we'll give you the reins on this one, Bev. This is are Cardiff genuine promotion contenders now?
I talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the show. and I said then, yes, that we were. I said it with a little bit of content, thinking that we would only finish about third or fourth. You can probably correct me on that. I think I said third. Now, I think that we're definitely in contention to finish in the top two. For whatever reason, the last couple of results, and even though we lost to Birmingham, which probably should have seen that coming, they got a new manager and whatnot, we've just looked amazing. We've played so well. Beat Leeds 3-0 in a game, 3-1 in a game that everyone said that we were going to lose. Everyone thought we were going to lose that game. We beat Middlesbrough at the Riverside. I was trying to. I think I saw a stat. It was something like of teams that have been relegated and gone there. Only 4 of them have ever beaten them at the Riverside, and it's a 20-year-old stadium, so it's been a while. And we beat them 1-0. It was a typical Neil Warnock win, 83rd minute penalty, tucked away, sure. But we didn't even have anywhere near our best players playing, and we've still got Callum Patterson to come back from injury, Kadeem Harris. I'm going blank, but there's others. There's definitely others. Reece Healy is another one. Frederick Ganongbe, who is awful, but he's coming back from injury. You never know, he might be playing well. And our under-21s played last night against Watford, beat them 2-0 in a game where Mark Harris scored a brace. He's 18 years old. He's 100% a future Wales international. If you've ever seen him play, he plays incredibly for us. And he played, I think, 4 or 5 games towards the end of last season, and really stood up. The point here I'm making is that Warnock thinks he's a fantastic young player, and he can't even get a chance in the Cardiff team. So, it says a lot that we've got so much strength and depth in every position.
What argument do you think there would be against Cardiff not getting in the top 2 then? What would stop them?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Probably just that it's 46 games is a long season, and things can go wrong very quickly. Kenneth Sahor didn't play against Middlesbrough, and it kind of showed that Danny Ward, who's our second striker, he had chances to score. I showed a few to you guys. He bottled a complete, on the plate chance that I think Sahor would have scored. But injuries happen naturally, and I think that if we, short of getting an injury crisis, we've got a player in every single position to sort it out, for sure.
Well, Cardiff have been finally getting the media coverage that you have ever so much desired. People, not just you, are tipping them to be promotion contenders now, and shout out to Dan, who had a little column in a 442 magazine a couple of months ago in the season preview special. He wrote a little bit about Cardiff and how he thought that they would do well. He said, you said that you'd think that City would finish 6th,
yeah.
And I would agree with that. I think looking back on it, I think City could, because they had a really good tail end of last season.
Yes.
Yeah, and 442 magazine said you'd finish 17th, wouldn't it?
yeah. And funnily enough, that number floated around a lot. They predicted that we finished 17th under Paul Trollope. In hindsight, they were kind of right, because we probably would have finished around there if he'd been our manager for the whole season. And then I'm looking at a lot of, funnily enough, Cardiff fans have been going back and seeing all these football threads of who they think is going to finish in what position, and retweeting Cardiff, and it's 17th, 18th, 21st. Yeah. Even one of them said that Cardiff would finish 24th because Neil Warnock would die.
Oh my God.
So yeah, awful person. But anyway, I honestly think that Neil Warnock, he wants this promotion more than anybody. I think 8 promotions, or this would be his 8th promotion, which would take him above Graham Taylor, who passed away recently. And I just think that if this is ever going to be a time for him to get this 8th promotion, it's now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think, but in terms of where you were, or where Cardiff were, last time you got promoted to the Premier League, do you see yourself better set up for it now? Because there was a lot of money invested into the team and the squad under Malcolm Mackay, but ultimately you ended up getting relegated in the first season. Do you think that under Warnock at the moment, you would do a lot better. Would you stay up in the Premier League at the moment?
Not with the current squad, no, because the way the team is honestly set up so that we would do well in the Championship.
Naturally, the club would get the financial bonuses for obviously getting promoted to the Premier League. And
I think we could invest that a lot better.
Yeah.
But the team that we have now is a lot better than the team we had when we went up.
But do you think Warnock has his mind suited to the Championship style of bringing in players and the style of football, or do you think he could recruit good players that would perform well on a wider scale in the Premier League?
I don't know. I honestly think that if we took him, if he went up with us, he because his contract is up at the end of the season, he would retire and we'd take somebody else over, or someone else would take us over in the Premier League. And I wouldn't be against that. He hasn't got a great record of keeping teams in the Premier League, and Premier League fans don't really like him that much. Not that that's ever stopped him.
If he doesn't do well after 2 weeks, you can always sack him.
Just bring in
Ronald,
Koeman.
Now, you're not doing it right if you don't have 10 managers a season.
Ask Swansea about that. they love a good managerial sacking. Yeah, I mean, I only wanted to talk about Cardiff a little bit because I don't get to talk about them very often. We're doing really well at the moment. It's like, as you say, we've been getting the media coverage, and I'm almost a little bit disappointed that we are, because when we were doing it before and doing it under the radar, it was great. It was amazing,
Yeah.
Now I think we're on telly between now and Christmas 4 times, and it's like, oh God.
Being surrounded by Welsh media, especially Wales Online, the likes of BBC Wales and stuff like that, they definitely publish a lot of Cardiff successes, and it's obviously the regional press that do hold regional teams in high regard, but it's good that BBC and national outlets are giving Cardiff the credit. No,
it's great. It is nice to see. They say any press is good. It's good press, and when it comes to Neil Warnock, he just attracts the press. He's a great guy. I've never interviewed him. I'd love to. Neil, hit me up. No, but he's always been a really nice guy to speak to, apparently, and he just likes.
That will make for a great extra special episode, just an hour long of you talking to Neil Warnock.
Oh,
Maybe we should try and hook that up.
It would be so one-sided because I'd just be gushing for an hour. But who knows? If that ever happened, then we've made it, boys. I would retire happy.
So in terms of revisiting your prediction for where Cardiff are going to finish, I think we've talked about it previously on the podcast, but at the moment, do you think 6th is where you're going to finish, or do you think you can aim for higher?
I think we can aim for higher. Like I say, I think a few weeks ago I laid out my top 6 of who I thought was going to finish where in the Championship, and I'm thinking Cardiff we're going to finish 4th or 3rd. Now I'm thinking we could finish 2nd. I'm looking at teams who started off poorly, and like Aston Villa, for example, and they for sure have managed to turn it round a lot, and they're in the top 6 now. Same with Norwich. Preston, for some reason, are doing well. I don't know why, because Alex Neil's their manager, previously of Norwich, and Hamilton Academical.
Oh wow, that's a mouthful.
That is hard to say. It is.
Hamilton Academical.
Yes.
Yes, first try.
Oh, go on then, go on, Ross. Oh, you're gonna be a Scottish journal, you. No, but I honestly think that Cardiff could finish in the top 2, and Wolves, who have spent a stupid amount of money, we made them look like children. In fact, Cardiff have played other than Cardiff, we've played the rest of the top 5 and beaten them all.
Yeah, but do you think it's a problem about momentum in the Championship, because leading up to this weekend's game, Cardiff were having a bad run of form, and a lot of people, including yourself, were relieved that Cardiff can bounce back from poor results. Do you think that that's going to be key in your success this season?
It's massive. It's so big. Like I say, a 46-game season is a very, very long time.
A lot can happen.
And a lot can happen. You can dip in and out of form constantly.
Even losing once every 3 games could prove to be critical at the end of the season with that amount of fixtures.
Exactly. They say promotion form is averaging a point every game.
Yeah.
That again, over 46 games is a very, very hard thing to do. And what's most important about Cardiff is that we lost to Birmingham, and we went straight back a much harder game away to Middlesbrough, and we won. And I can't remember what we've only lost twice this season, and the other time we came back and we won it again. So yeah, I absolutely think that Cardiff. We've got all the makings of a championship promotion winning team, but we're a quarter of the way through the season now. So it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, we'll make sure to revisit Cardiff
every now and again, at least.
Well, hopefully regularly. I'm sure the Cardiff situation will give us a lot to talk about. So thank you for that insight, Bev.
No worries at all.
We will conclude the show on our usual segment that ends our shows, the football funnies of the week. So I will hand it back over to Bev for the football funny segment.
Yeah, I was really struggling to find something this week. I don't know why. Clearly things are boring. So I decided to go back into the archives a little bit and also tell a little story about me. We've got a 2-hour show going on, by the way, so I hope you're really appreciating this. So Robbie Savage, right? Oh, even Wales fans find it hard to like Robbie Savage. I think you can appreciate that. When I was, I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I was coming home from holiday and the Wales team had just flown into the Cardiff airport, and I got on. They let me onto the coach. God knows why.
Oh, with the players?
Yeah,
it's mad.
I was quite young. I was maybe 7 or 8, and I got my little autograph book out that I had, and I was getting everyone's autograph. I got a couple of pictures with the players. Robert Earnshaw, Gary Speed. All these players were my idols. And Robbie Savage was there, and so my mum was there as well. She fancied him for some reason. I don't know why. He's not
the luscious locks.
Exactly, probably was.
Yeah.
But she was there with me, and Robbie Savage was there on his phone. Her only seems like his wife or maybe his agent or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's just on the phone talking away. He looks up, he sees us. I wave, and my mum smiles, and I've got my autograph book out like that. Now all he needs to do is just sign it, and I'll be on my way. But he just ignores us completely.
Oh God.
He ignores me completely. And then his phone conversation ends. He looks back up at me, then starts dialing another number and goes straight back on the phone.
Clearly wasn't on the phone to anyone.
So I've decided that this week I'm going to bait him out.
So Robbie Savage, we're calling you out. Dan wants that autograph.
I do want that autograph. So this week I'm talking about Roy Keane. I think this was from his book, but this is a direct quote from something, and he's talking about Robbie Savage, and he says, I rang Mark Hughes. Savage was playing at Blackburn at the time, but he wasn't getting into the team, so I asked Mark if we could try and arrange a deal. Mark said, he's lost his way a bit here, but he could definitely do a job for you, and Robbie's legs were going, but he thought he might be able to add something at Sunderland. This is when Roy Keane was Sunderland manager. It was a massive failure.
Yeah.
I think wasn't that about 2002?
Roy Keane at Sunderland manager?
Oh no.
2008.
No, ignore me. Yeah, okay. I'm thinking of what's the other? Niall Quinn. Niall Quinn. Yeah. So this isn't actually that long ago then. Less than 10 years. And he said, in Roy Keane's words, his long hair could give us a lift. They already had Dwight York, obviously towards the end of his career. He was a big personality, but he thought that definitely could add to it. So Sparky, who's Mark Hughes, gave him his phone number. Sparky. I don't know why they called him that. That was his name throughout his entire career. Gave him his phone number, and he went to voicemail, and it went, "Hi, it's Robbie. What's up?" Like the old Budweiser advert. And in Roy Keane's words, I never called him back. I thought, there's no way I'm signing that. And that is what made me think of that story about me when I was younger, thinking that on that phone was a message that said, "Hi, it's Robbie. What's up?" And that concludes this episode of the Off the Post podcast. Thank you very much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back next week with a Halloween special.
Yes, we will. A special Movember section as well. We'll be picking our top beards in football, which will be quite funny.
Exactly, and probably top horror injuries or something like that.
Maybe.
Who knows? Find out next week. It could be a mystery.
Follow us all on Twitter. Follow the official podcast. It's at IOTP blog. Follow me. I'm at @Ardors_.
I'm at Dan Bev Journo.
I'm at Liam is a Journo.
And thank you for listening to this week's episode. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Ta-ra.